this important meeting. We start our meetings typically with an invocation and a pledge of allegiance to the flag, those things that unite us all. And tonight we have Reverend Jake Hall from Highland Hills Baptist Church that's going to give our invocation, and we have a couple of students that are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So would you please stand as you are able for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Hall, we need a good prayer, sir.
I offer this blessing tonight in the language of my own faith tradition, but not to the exclusion of any. I offer it convictionally as a minister who cares about this community and stand with all who in goodwill seek to work together. Let us pray. O God, we seek your blessing upon our common life. Give us the strength to make good decisions together. Be with our commissioners this night, our county employees, and our community. Give us charity and goodwill towards each other in this situation that we find ourselves in. This accidental austerity that threatens us, this theater that presses us to make a decision that we've needed to make for a while. So we ask you to free us from this budget that needs to move from interim status to something that's holistic and whole and seeks the peace of our entire city, something that doesn't balance our life on the vulnerable, something that doesn't short the strategic influences of those who seek our economic health, a budget that doesn't strip our culture. Lord, give us a way to balance what we have, what we need. Grant the commissioners the courage of the convictions that got them into this common work, that called them to say yes to public service. Have them operate out of the wealth of that common politic, a capital that is unending, and not out of the poverty of their political pragmatism. Lord, forgive us for all of the posturing that happens in this hall and out, in the social media threads that reveal our own avarice and the dark side of our populism. Free us from this strange purgatory that we find ourselves in. Help us not to be penny-wise and pound-foolish about the real issues facing our municipal economy. Release us from this and help us to raise our rhetoric, something that calls us to common action together. Forgive us as a community for being only willing to work together when we are angry and cynical enough to come out on a night like this, in which the stage has to be set for us to be frothing at the mouth to seek a common compromise between two different positions. Redeem us from this cynicism that seeks to strangle us, and convict our leaders to set aside the anger, to set aside the fear that kindles this response in the community, and help them to call us to a higher sense of citizenship together. Save us from easy fixes and disproportionate responses that hamper core services and hinder our common responsibility, though they may make a headline or two. Redeem us from the politics that pit us as citizens against each other by where we live and what we have and what services that we use. Teach us to expect more from our leaders, a high level of stewardship, but also a high level of citizenry in which we are willing to work together for the common good. So let us raise that bar within ourselves, to raise our expectation, to set aside our own needs and wants for those who have more need and want than we. Give us hope, a common respect for each other, And let us raise a new generation of Maconites who set aside these politics of division, instead for a community that cares for all. So bless these public servants in their work. Renew their sense of calling to this good vocation, and let us all move forward together. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Our invocation tonight, Pastor Jake Hall, native of Columbus, Georgia, graduate of Samford in Birmingham, Alabama, where he met his wife, Erin. And after they married in 2000, Jake began seminary at Duke University, where he received a Master of Divinity. Jake's a graduate of the Pastoral Residency Program of Wilshire Baptist Church. In 2013, completed his doctorate of ministry at Mercer University's James and Carolyn McAfee School of Theology. And as I say, is pastor now at Highland Hills. Thank you very much, Jake. We appreciate you being here. And our Pledge of Allegiance was led tonight by Michonne Lewis Ross, who is 6 years of age and a rising second grader at Springdale Elementary School, and by Miss Destiny Davis, who is 5 years old and a rising first grader at M.A. Evans Academy, where she already maintains an A average. We're proud of our young people, and we hear so much bad, but this is great, and we appreciate them being here. Thank you very much. Rabbi, can I call on you to kind of make this announcement that you were kind enough about somebody that's here with that group, Fred Campbell?
Yeah. Okay, well, along with the SMART youth group students who are here, we have Fred Campbell here. And Fred, where are you? Okay, hey, Fred. Fred is a basketball player in the state of Israel, correct? Naimod, yeah, that's great. So we're glad to have you here among us, and you're a local Maconite, and we appreciate you stopping by. So, toda rabah, and lehitrot.
Thank you, Rabbi, and we are most appreciative of all of the students that came to be with us tonight. Thank you all very much, and we appreciate it. You're welcome to stay for as long as you would like, but if you'd like to leave, when you get ready to leave, you're certainly welcome to take your leave. Thank you again very much, and let's give them one more round of applause, please. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes. The minutes of our pre-commission meeting of June the 19th and regular commission meeting of June the 19th have been previously prepared and distributed for your review. Are there any changes or corrections? If not, can I get a motion to adopt both sets of minutes or approve both sets of minutes by Commissioner Schlesinger, second by Commissioner Shepard? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of those two sets of minutes signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. That brings us next to invited guests, and we had one recognition already as a guest that came to be with us. All of you are honored guests, and we're delighted that each and every one of you are here. Is anybody aware of other guests that have been invited that need to be recognized beyond that? If not, let me move on then to public items, public comments on agenda items. And admittedly, again, I'll reemphasize, we're familiar with the issues. Believe me, we're familiar with the issues. So please keep your comments short. If you've already talked to us, especially earlier today, feel free just to pass. So Andy Ambrose from the Tubman Museum, pass. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. Keith Pillow of an Orange Street address, a budget submitted. And maybe I'm pronouncing it Pillow. I'll put him aside in case he's downstairs and on his way up. Allison Goldie, pass. Good. Thank you, Allison. Jennifer Lawsonheiser of the library system. Can I defer to my chair? To your board chair? If you feel like she has something additional that she needs for us to hear, then yes, come ahead and you come to the podium, please, ma'am. Just adjust that microphone so we can hear you.
All right, greetings to everyone. My name is Janice Habersham. I'm the outgoing chair of the board of the directors of the Middle Georgia Regional Library. With the 4th of July upon us, I would like to quote a founding father, Thomas Jefferson. And he said, "I cannot live without books." I say to you, we as a community cannot live without a library. Our libraries in Macon-Bibb are vital to the growth and prosperity of this community. I'd like to share a few of the programs and partnerships. I'll try to skip over some of them to save time. But we partner with the WIC in promoting 1,000 books before kindergarten. We partner with the United Way program entitled Library Goes to Lunch. This program delivers books and literacy to children attending summer nutrition programs. We partner with Daybreak, a nonprofit organization that ministers to the homeless. We train the homeless in using the computer in order to find employment. We have recently installed a business and nonprofit center training funded by the Knight Foundation. This training provides spaces to provides economic tools for guidance and business decisions and upstart of nonprofit organizations. We're also partnering with the Park and Recreation to provide a library branch in the Bloomfield Recreation Center. What an awesome idea. Of course, this project is on hold at this time. I would like to focus on a special project that I'm a part of because I'm one of the facilitators, and that's the Primetime Program. In the spring of 2018, we asked Martin Luther King elementary students elementary people to identify their at-risk students. These students and their parents were invited to participate in book talks each week for 6 weeks at the Shirling Library in the evening from 5 to 6:30. 11 families participated, including 5 fathers. They were assigned to read 2-story books a week, and they were allowed to keep the paperbacks to build their own personal collections. Dinner was served each week, and after dinner, they listened to the stories and openly discussed the stories with critical thinking questions. Parents and children discussing books together. It was very rewarding and beneficial. We plan to have more sessions, one in the fall and next spring, but this program and many more of our programs will not happen if the operational funding is cut. Did you know that the Washington Library was named one of the 10 most beautiful libraries in Georgia? Did you know we have an award-winning genealogy and historical center, foremost in the southeast area? Did you know our director, Jennifer Lotzenheiser, was named the 2017 State Librarian of the Year? Did you know that as far as visits, there were only over 690,914 visits to the library, with 518 and 29,000 circulations, and the computer use, 142,779. Is that it? Well, I'll leave with a quote. One quote, sir, from Martin Luther King. "The time is always right to do the right thing."
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Nikki Randall with Navison. Pass. Jim McClendon, Sports Hall of Fame. Pass. Julie Wilkerson with the Macon Arts Alliance. Pass. Thank you. Brenda Peak, Vineville Avenue. Would you like to speak to us? Yes, ma'am. You come ahead.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm going to speak to you like an old grandma. Years ago, my parents taught me if you spend more than you're taking in, you're in trouble. Is this what has happened to Macon-Bibb? I grew up in Warner Robins since 1949, but moved to Macon 20 years ago. When I first came, I didn't have a vehicle, and Macon Transit was my lifeline to the outer world. And as it is again today, I do have a vehicle, but there are so many people that depend on this. Being elderly, I have a lot of elderly friends that really can't drive anymore, and that's their lifeline now. Please, please, please do not take this away from them. Please.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peak. We appreciate you being in. Appreciate your comment. Reverend James Baker. Is Reverend Baker here? Hey, Reverend Baker. Appreciate your patience. You're recognized to speak, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I had a speech written down and everything, and I just don't like to go off manuscript all the time. One of the things that Mayor, Commissioner, we need to look at the old and straighten the new out. We're in trouble here in Macon based on what we're hearing, and we just want to know where the money went, where exactly did it go. If this meeting was to be like this every week, I don't think we'll run into too many problems like we're running into now. One of the things is when Dale Walker was city manager, that was $200 million that was diverted to IPC, and we haven't heard anything about that, or what the SEC or anything about that. Then there's these actors that's behind the scene doing Open Records Act, just really on all African Americans that hold a position in city government. We just need to really look at where is love really in this community, what's really going on in this community. It's time for us to pick up, get up, come together, and be unified. Dr. King quoted this. He said, "I would not remember my enemies based on how silent they were, but I remember my friend based on how much noise my enemy made." But he said, I'll never forget how it hurt me, how silent my friends are. It's time for us to come together. Black, white, let's straighten this out. We need to look at each other in the face, be honest. It seems like righteous then become unrighteous around here. It seems like wrong, seems like it's right. Let's get back on track, do what we need to do. Let's really look at our hearts, our minds, and our spirits to see can we come together. Because look at this crowd, black and white coming together now.
Thank you, Reverend Baker. We
We're coming
appreciate
together now. So let's really look individually and take an inventory.
Thank you for your comment. Sarah Hunt, Ms. Hunt, do you wish to speak?
Yes, I got another issue. And the people need to know. Good evening.
Good evening.
There is a line item in the budget that the mayor presented, $1,777,000, that would take in urban development, industrial authority, Middle Georgia enhancement, land bank, all of that. You got it lumped in one little item there called, you know what it is, $1,777,000. Then right under that, you got $360-something thousand that says industrial authority. Okay, so we don't need to include that .112 or that 012 come to a total of .244 millage rate. We don't need that. Then you got, I need to know why DFAC's got a fund. You got a DFAC's fund, but then you're asking for us to fund DFAC's. What is the defects fund for? What are you holding that for? That's funds that you could use for defects. All right, the medical center. Originally in the budget, that when I came to the budget hearing before, it said 180,000 to Neverson. Now it's raised up to 455,500, 0.11 millage rate. I mean, come on now. Let's don't try to play the player. But let's tell the truth and be real. There is 4 different items in that budget that's padded. What you talking about, Hunt? The sheriff came and said that there was 30 positions in his budget, but he was going to only be able to probably fill 15. He had you to take 15 out, but the money is still in there now in this budget. The city manager, the assistant city manager positions, you said you were not going to refill. You were not going to fill them, but the money is still back in the budget now, showing as if you're going to fill them. Come on, let's come clean now. I got up 3 o'clock this morning and pulled that budget that you showed us back when it was 2.7 for a millage rate. I took the budget that the mayor just presented, and I looked at both of them, and I looked at 2018 budget. Some ain't jiving. So somebody need to be fired.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt. Amy Dever. Amy Dever. Sure. Kim Elkins.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I hate to have to be here tonight. This is extremely emotional for me. I've been a homeowner, a taxpayer, and a resident of this community my entire life, and I have never seen the likes of this happen in Macon-Bibb County. It is appalling. I spent probably 15 hours writing something, but I'm just going to speak from my heart because I want you to hear what's in my heart. I have watched every single one of these meetings. I couldn't be here because I have to work. I have bills to pay, so I have to work. But I have watched every single one of these budget meetings, and I have watched you go back and forth and come to no resolution. We as taxpayers are tired of the way that you were doing. We're tired of it. There are some of you on this, and Ms. Wynn, I'm not talking about you. You haven't been involved with this. Please, I'm leaving you out of this equation. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm very disappointed, disgruntled, aggravated, and almost to the point where I'm ashamed to say I'm a part of this community. I don't know what you guys are doing, but we're all tired of it. We're tired of being taxed to death. We're tired of the scare tactics. We're going to not fund this if you don't allow us to do that. We're tired of it. My parents are elderly. You want to take away Meals on Wheels for those elderly people who only get one meal a day? You want to increase taxes on those elderly people who own homes, and now they have to make the decision whether they're going to buy their medicines and their food or they're going to pay their property taxes? You are not thinking about the citizens of Macon-Bibb County. You're doing your own agendas. You're trying to push your own agendas. And we, frankly, as a collective body of taxpayers and the constituents that hired you, are sick and tired of it.
Thank you, Ms. Elton. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Channing Guest. Channing Guest. I'll get to you. Amy, I'll get to you momentarily. That's Amy Dever. Yeah.
I'd like to say thank you for your
Adjust that microphone so we can hear you. There you go.
First off, I'd like to say thank you for your consideration on continuing the funding of the Museum of Arts and Sciences. But ladies and gentlemen of the Macon City Council and Mayor Rickard, I want to start by saying thank you so much for your time and your opportunity to address you about my home away from home, the Museum of Arts and Sciences. My name is Channing Guest. I'm 17 years old, and I've lived in Macon my whole life. I'm a senior at Windsor Academy, and this place has meant everything to me ever since I was little. I can remember begging my parents to let me go there almost every day since I was young, so I could just go look at all the animals and learn about the stuff there. I'm sure I couldn't pronounce their names properly or even fully understand their purpose, but I knew one thing, that I loved every part of it. The museum's mini-zoo has inspired me to learn everything I could about animals, which is where I discovered a passion for reptiles which I would never shake. One day on a visit to the museum, I stopped by to check out the snakes and other animals, and a lady who worked there, which I now know as Janae Matthews, showed me around and told me about how she was a volunteer and that she eventually became a staff member there. As I got a little bit older, I ended up getting a volunteer application and starting to volunteer there. It's been around 5 years now, and I'm now currently a staff member at the Museum of Arts and Sciences, and I've made plenty of memories, and I really enjoy the museum. And I would like to address the value of the museum is to the city of Macon and all the countless surrounding communities is more than I can sum up in one paragraph. From the many school buses I've seen pull into the parking lots from day to day, to the priceless memories of families strolling their kids around and the education they receive, to the outreaches that we provide to schools because they can't come to the school. Those are just a few of the examples of how important the museum is. I know that I'm just one voice, but I'm a thankful voice, a passionate voice, and a pleading voice. I cannot imagine one day not being able to walk my kids around in the Museum of Arts and Sciences and show them the place that made me who I am. That's how important this place is to me. And I would ask you to please continue the funding for the Museum of Arts and Sciences.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Gill.
you for your time.
Thank you very much. Amy Dever?
Mayor Rickard, it's Amy Dever.
Sorry, Ms. Dever.
That's okay. I'm here on behalf of Georgia Women and those who stand with us. I'm sure folks out here recognize the shirt, and y'all have probably seen a few of our postcards. We are here today as a collective group to urge you to pass each of the pending amendments to restore funding and to get whatever amendments need to be passed to get the millage rate increased to pay for these. These are not optional services for this community. And I can speak on behalf of all the folks that are down in the basement, which is about as big a crowd as is up here. It's an enthusiastic group of Maconites that are here. We support this city as an organization. We support the kind of work that is done. These aren't just outside agencies. These are quality of life agencies. We cannot, as a community, afford to do this. If you ask us, we tell you we've got a size 12 shoe and all you've got is a size 10, we shouldn't have to get our toes cut off so the shoe fits. We need a bigger shoe. We need to pass the budget that can sustain this community and provide us an opportunity for a future. Do not do this. We are here to support you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dever. Linda Bell.
To the mayor and the county commissioner, I stand tonight to support my community. I remember some years ago we had some administration here at City Hall, And back then, the slogan was, Macon is on the move. Well, Macon is still on the move today. But instead of going forward, it's going backwards. Now, what I mean when I say going backwards, a city this size, no Macon Transit Authority, going backwards. A city of this size, no public libraries, going backwards. Macon Mall have less than 50 stores, going backwards. The shops at Presidential Parkway that lost at least 6 or 7 stores, going backwards. Now, the plus side, we do have Amazon coming to town with 500 jobs. But look how many people stand to lose their jobs. And some of these people have been on these jobs 20 plus years, close to retirement. Now they're going to lose those jobs? How do you expect for people to pay their taxes if they don't have the jobs? Now, I love every one of you, and I know you're trying to do your job, but I must speak my piece. May God bless you is my prayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Bell. Robert Harden. Robert Harden. Mr. Harden, thank you very much. You're recognized.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, as a former corporate executive officer and a senior executive service federal employee, I both developed and managed very large private sector and governmental budgets for many years, budgets many, many times the size of the Macon-Bibb County budget. My budget process always began with a firm and accurate understanding of available funding streams, from which we then developed a budget that best accomplished the organization's goals and the needs of its clients and constituencies. But we did that within the constraints of available funds. Since consolidation and under the present administration, Macon-Bibb continues unsuccessfully to develop its annual fiscal budget in what I would term reverse order. First, by creating a Christmas wish list of departmental budgets, adding in poorly defined budgets from outside agencies, then guesstimating and overstating potential revenue, even when previous year's estimates of revenue proved incorrect. And finally, rather than adjusting the budget to meet revenues, adding the inevitable difference to the property taxpayers' millage rate. Mr. Watkins, you stated during your town meeting on Saturday that the repeated overstatement of revenue is, and I quote, no one's real fault. I beg to differ. It's your fault, and the fault of your fellow commissioners for accepting without question flawed budgets presented to you by the administration. You further stated, maybe there are more savvy managers who can forecast these types of things. Why didn't you seek them out? Or perhaps we should elect more savvy commissioners who can understand these issues. The budget process this year should have begun with the firm understanding that there's no more than $149.7 million available for expenditures, although allocating 99% of those anticipated revenues is a recipe for disaster. Regardless, lots of difficult decisions will need to be made and lots of tough love applied to reach the goal of a budget with a no millage rate increase. Rabbi Schlesinger, your comment last Thursday about applying an equitable across all departments reduction to achieve a budget with no millage rate increase is perhaps the only viable option available at this date. Alternatively, a targeted reduction in funds to outside agencies, a contribution by county employees to both their pension and health care plans, and a brief furlough for all but essential workers also makes a budget with no millage rate increase attainable. Then bring in the county department directors and representatives from all outside agencies and direct them to prepare revised 2019 budgets at a reduced austerity level. Once those budgets are accepted, bring them all in to meet with the commission every month to report on their progress toward managing their budgets appropriately. I believe you're all good people at heart, but you simply don't have the necessary skill and experience to deal with issues such as this budget. Other communities like ours, Columbus, Georgia is a great example, have wrestled with these self-same problems and found appropriate resolutions. You need to reach out to them and embrace their best practices.
You, Mr. Harden. Your time's up.
If I could make one final comment, please.
Sir?
I ask you, as commissioners, to vote no for these amended budgets. Send it back not to the Operations and Finance Committee, but to the Committee of the Whole. We can achieve a budget with no millage rate increase. Thank you.
Thank you. George Muhammad. Mr. Muhammad, you recognized to speak, sir.
Peace and blessings. As a representative of the Douglas Theater Board, I certainly hope that we will keep those quality of life assets such as the Douglas and the Tubman Museum, Museum of Arts and Sciences, quality of life assets, the health assets in our budget. But let's face it, our consolidation was a deception, sold with false promises, improperly implemented, and this mayoral administration has spent money recklessly with favoritism and disparity. Our commissioners are charged not simply with fiscal responsibility and careful stewards of tax dollars, being careful stewards, but also with ensuring that the essential services and needs of the people are met, as well as providing a quality of life for the local people that cultivates the children and encourages thriving new investment and enterprise to take root here. So yes, we are going to have to raise taxes again. All of us are going to have to do more to sustain our home in crisis times and circumstances. It is not an option to shut down libraries, recreation centers, health facilities, museums, and historic theaters that serve the life cultivation needs of our local children and families. Not raising taxes and eliminating all of these key institutions will not make any people or businesses want to relocate here. We have continued to lose a revenue base because our leadership has not made it a priority to address the problem of population loss. Many say taxes made them want to leave, but also a lack of quality education, neglected neighborhoods, viable jobs, and fair economic opportunities, a lack of pride and connection that comes with investment in the people, and in initiatives that make people feel good about Macon-Bibb County. Our youth are depending on us. We don't need another mayor who is going to neglect the black community. Knowing that black people comprise 60% of the population and are in great danger of poverty, ignorance, crime, not being able to meet their potential for productivity. They must be cultivated and invested in, whether the mayor is black, white, or otherwise. There is a double standard of justice for what is funded and what is not funded. For the covert and overt actions of the mayors, justices, law enforcement leaders, educators, and business entrepreneurs in this county that must be cleaned out and healed. It is destroying our hometown, keeping enmity between the people. If we truly want a successful and beautiful Macon-Bibb County to live in, we must stop denying and be faithful to being fair and caring about each other, other people.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. You
Very
sound
much.
spot. Thank you very much for your comments, sir.
I pray y'all do the right thing.
Mary Duncan. Mary Duncan. Willie Frazier. Mr. Frazier, you're recognized to speak, sir.
First of all, I want to say good afternoon to all of you, mayor, commissioners, and I want to speak to all of the citizens of Macon. I want to say hello to you as well. You don't know me, but my name is Willie Frazier, and I'm from the city of Macon. I was born in Warner Robins as a child, but I've lived my whole life here. I come down and I speak at these meetings a lot, trying to make changes and make differences. And I want each one of you to know something. I volunteer for a couple of foundations here in Macon. Don't get paid anything, don't put anything, but I do that because I want to make changes in this city. And I want to do things that make a change and make a difference to people in this city. I come here back and forth, and from up here to back there, I hear all kind of people say they love Macon, they from Macon, they want to be in here. But let me tell you, let me show you what real love is. Love don't cost you nothing. Every time I go and volunteer, even though I don't get nothing, I get up early and I go do it. The thing about that is, this budget that you all proposed and did, I want to thank all the folks that voted it through, and I'm going to tell you why. I work for the Board of Education with special need kids, and I'm wearing my badge for the last time because when y'all voted that budget in Thursday, I got a call that I don't have a job anymore. And the thing about that is, these special need kids need us because they can't see about themselves. You see, I come down and I try to save, and I talk to all of you very nicely, manageable and everything. Don't do nothing to hurt nobody. But this has hurt me and my family because my wife got a trach in her throat. She needs surgery. She needs my insurance. And without a job, I can't do that. And the thing about that is nobody knows the underlying thing. You said that you don't want to pay the 1 cent tax. I bow to Joe, and I love Joe Allen because you know what? He knew that this money was going to be needed to save this city. And he done spoke it every day, but some of you want to get mad at Joe because he needed that 1%. But where we at right now?
Mr. Frazier,
Right,
please
where we
address
at-
your
right,
comments
but where
to
we
to
at
the
right
chair,
now,
please, sir.
right, Mayor, but where we at right now, the money was needed because we was already in debt. That's understood, but if you really love this city, then why would it hurt to give an extra penny or two to save this city? Because now this city is in a mess. The thing that they did vote in the budget, because the money was allocated and wasn't given, now the city is in deeper trouble than it would have been had we gave the little few pennies and stuff. Giving those few pennies is what love is. You see, I'm a Christian and I'm saved. That's what love is. If you really love Macon, then do what's right. You know it's needed. Even all you wealthy people and the ones that don't want to pay the extra money. If it take that to save your city and you really love this city, then do what's necessary.
Thank you, Mr.
Give
Frazier.
it.
Thank you
And-
very much for your comments and your passion, sir.
Thank
We
you, Pastor.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Marvella Ivory.
Good evening, Mayor Rickard, Commissioners, Macon-Bibb citizens. God has entrusted all of you to do the right thing by Macon-Bibb. Macon-Bibb citizens have entrusted you to do the right thing. I am a native of Macon, and it is heartbreaking to see the budget of Macon-Bibb to be in the current condition that it is in. The money received from the following can be lumped together to refund, reallocate it, realign to continue the wonderful quality of life we have here in Macon. 15 positions that will not be used for law enforcement, assistant manager positions or other city positions that will not be filled, non-used properties that have been charged garbage fees for services not rendered, other line items that are sitting and accruing interest that are not being used. You are so intelligent. You are. I know you are. I trust you. Discretionary fund line items the money just sitting there, just accruing interest right now as I speak. Using the aforementioned line items to fund all the things that are that help improve and keep the quality of life for our community citizens, visitors, and tourists can enjoy. Macon used to be the capital of Macon. How can Macon progress and expand if the quality of life is reduced? Since it's impossible for every citizen to attend each meeting, you need to do an online survey so that the citizens can respond accordingly to make sure that the heartbeat of Macon stays at 120/80 and not at 180/120. We don't want Macon to have a financial stroke, a cultural stroke, or a quality of life stroke, because we're at risk of that now. You can revive Macon through a financial CPR move, and that's the right move, to reevaluate the budget of putting our citizens first. You can do it. Put it back on 120/80, Philippians 4:13. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. You can do it. So let's do that thing.
Thank you, Ms. Ivory. Thank you very much for your comments. We've got about 25 more people that want to speak to us, so please, if you can be brief, we would appreciate it. Like I say, I think we all understand the issues here. Janice Habersham? Pass. Thank you very much. That's wonderful. Thank you. Well, you spoke earlier, so thank you twice. I can read the address better than I can read the name. Bonner Gilbert Road wants to talk to us about the library and partially closing the transit authority. Ms. Sharon, is that right? Last name Sharon, S-H-A-R-O-N?
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I've been up, I think I've had 6 hours of sleep since I heard on my favorite radio station, GPV, NPR Geek, about these proposed cuts. First, I was in shock, then it went to disbelief, and then it went to moral outrage. But I will remain brief because it seems as though the great majority of people before me have said most of what I would have wanted to say myself. There are a couple of things. I was going to start off with this, and these are the words which prompted me to move. The words of Ella Wheeler Wilcox: "To sin by silence makes cowards of us all." The transit system. It was very ironical as I drove up. I saw city buses going to colleges, 2 of the transit buses, paratransit buses. I have chronic kidney disease. I know about dialysis. You can't drive yourself to dialysis and drive yourself home. It's impossible. The whole ordeal takes probably about 6 hours before you can leave, and then you need someone to help you. I did not know about all the different mental health system issues that I assume were all lumped together, as I heard tonight. I take this very personally too, because I have manic depressive illness, a very severe, one of the most severe forms of mental illness. I'm one of the fortunate ones. I had to leave a PhD program to go on disability because of this illness, which to this day has broken my heart. But I'm one of the lucky ones, one of the fortunate ones, because by being on disability, I have been allowed to have the proper care and treatment that I need. I know with the surety, had I not had those opportunities, I would have been dead years ago. I had so much more to say, but I have just a closing quote. Pardon me, it's my reading glasses. Yeah. Well, closing thought to the commissioners, Mayor Reichert. Tomorrow, the national celebration of Independence Day is going to occur. Your voices tonight and your votes will determine whether the citizens of Macon and Bibb County will wake up on the 4th of July with the independence which the services of this community have been providing for them and are in fear of being lost. Closing words. James Henry Morgan. Each moral action and utterance is linked to a chain of sequences where words and actions live on and ring on forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Sherman. We appreciate you being here, appreciate your patience. Mr. Wade Horton? Mr. Horton? You're recognized to speak, sir. Thank you very much for being here and for your patience.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. First, I'm going to say, and I know no one wants to have taxes raised, but it's imperative that we do that at this point in time. And I would like to say also that we keep saying we're funding outside agencies. We're not funding outside agencies. We're funding inside people. People that are inside this community that depend on these services, not just Macon Transit, but Meals on Wheels, the EOC, Parks and Recreation, our cultural things that we enjoy that makes us not a town, but a city. If we want to continue to be a town, a city, we have to do things that cities do. If we want to be a town, then we provide service that Mayberry serves its people. We don't want to be Mayberry. Now, we understand that the problem we're in now is a direct result of consolidation. The consolidation that happened when people were told that we were going to have 2 tax districts, and one was going to continue to pay what they're paying now, and the other will pay what they're paying then. Well, we came down, many of us came and said that was not fair, and so eventually you got rid of the double taxation within the city limit. Well, everybody knew the money had to come back from somewhere, and that taxes eventually were going to raise. What should have happened then was when you got rid of the taxes, you should have went on ahead and said, okay, we're going to have to adjust the millage rate so that everybody will be paying fairly, instead of get rid of the taxes for the city limit and then we just kumbaya. That's where we at now. We're at a point where we have to raise taxes to accommodate these programs. And I know a lot of people don't want to see taxes go up. I don't either. Never like taxes, but we have to pay them in order to maintain the quality of life that we have that is so badly needed for the area. You know, a lot of these things are a bright light for many of us and many of this city, with so much negativity that goes on in our government and our communities. The positive things we will get rid of real quickly. I encourage you guys to vote to accommodate these programs that are so vastly needed. Each one of them is an investment in our children, our elderly people. They're an investment in our persons with disabilities. They're investments in our working class people. Amazon, when they came to Macon, they said that transportation would be a very vital reason why they chose Macon to come here. And I don't believe it was just the transit authority, but the other things that make Macon our home is what brought them here. We are a great city on a hill looking to become greater. Please vote to restore all of these programs for City of Macon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. Appreciate your comment. Ms. Ann Williams. Ann Williams. Pass. Thank you, ma'am. Cleo Roberts, Tubman Museum. Cleo Roberts, Tubman Museum. Vicki Wigginton Goodrow, bus, library, and home taxes. Vicki Wigginton Goodrow. Good. You're recognized to speak, please, ma'am.
I am not from Macon. I am a transplant, and Joe told me if I didn't come, not to complain. I know you need to raise taxes to pay for certain items. I understand that. You have to spend money to make money. They teach you that in college and marketing. However, you need to be careful. You need to think of the elderly. We have a lot of elderly in Bloomfield. And if their taxes go up that amount, what do? Do they eat? Do they buy their meds? Or do they pay their taxes? It's really hard for the elderly and on a fixed income. We can't work some overtime to make extra money. That's all we have. My rent goes up. I don't know what we'll do. So you all just need to tread lightly if you have to go up on the taxes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments, appreciate your patience. Thomas Hudson, about Parks and Recreation. Thomas Hudson. Thank you, Mr. Hudson. You recognized for to speak. Fine.
Good evening. I'm just standing here once again as a citizen who happens to work for Parks and Recreation, who's passionate about our city and what's going on. We just at a point now where we got to understand that Parks and Recreation is very big in our city. I work today. It's kind of funny with the Independence Day being tomorrow, and we had 100 kids at North Macon today that were happy to be there in our Parks and Recreation facility, and we explained to them, you know, tomorrow is much bigger than just Independence Day, much bigger than the barbecues and the food they're gonna be eating. We actually explained to them what Independence Day is for. Not only we do that, Parks and Recreation gives these kids a dream. We tell these kids about stuff that they can do in the future. I'm from Bloomfield Community Center. Most of our kids from Bloomfield Community Center walk. They come there by choice. They come to our pools by choice. They don't have to be there. If we cut out Parks and Recreation, our city would be in much more trouble than it is now. We got drone programs. We got sports programs. All our kids watch sports. They dream to be this player. They dream to be that player. What do you think these kids start playing at? That dream starts in Parks and Recreation. Not only does it reach out to our kids, we got several programs for our senior citizens, keep them active. Several programs that help get jobs, mentoring programs. Parks and Recreation is a very important part of Macon, Georgia. And I'm just gonna leave with this. At New Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church, Bryant Rains, we have a motto over there, where all members matter. At this point, everybody in our city matters. All of us matter. And at St. Luke, we moving on the mission where all in. It's time for us in the city to be all in. The money got to come from somewhere. If we got to do taxes, that's what we got to do, but we got to be all in. Everybody let be on the same page. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Appreciate your comments. Appreciate you being here. Colleen Giffen. Colleen Giffen. Downstairs, maybe on her way up. Colleen Giffen. Hey, Ms. Giffen, you're recognized to speak.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor Rickert. First, I want to thank you for volunteering to lead our community. With the leadership roles you have chosen come a lot of responsibility. From the discussions I've seen, I know you all take it to heart. What I hope to share tonight are my concerns and my desires for a path forward. While I know I'm not fully aware of all the minute details and may never be without being in your shoes, I believe I have a grasp on the big picture. First, my three concerns. What if we only focus on one side or the other of the budget, cost cutting versus adding revenue? I fear we're going to lose the strides we have come to make over the last several years. I have enjoyed the new parks, the revitalization of downtown, the eliminating or at least working on the areas of blight throughout Macon. I don't want us to move backwards. My second concern is that if we continue to cling to unsustainable models of employee compensation and benefits, we will not be able to keep what we have. While most of the public sector has moved to a shared employee-employer retirement system, we still only have an employer contribution system. If we actually look at the 4% contribution rate that is being discussed, the highest salary is like $161,000, which means we are looking at 4% of $6,400 for that person. For the lower salary of about $23,000, we're looking at just shy of $1,000. While I know this would have to require some adjustments, if this is sustainable going forward, then I think it is worth truly looking at. My third concern is if we continue to go on the situation we have, we are going to lose services. I don't want to be in the only county of the state that is without resources, especially for our children. As I know we all want to help better our community and the education system, the library, as well as the Tubman Museum, parks and recreation, as well as transportation, are all vital. Even the outside agencies that when I first saw were being supported by taxpayer dollars, I questioned. I've come to realize that our society is not able to support them without taxpayer assistance. And while I don't believe this should be the fundamental avenue of their revenue, the Tubman Museum, the Museum of Arts and Sciences, and other cultural agencies need our help and funding as well. My desires for the path forward. One, I want us, in the budget we look at tonight, to see and keep the identified savings that have been listed out. I want to defund the various vacancies that have been identified. I want the 4% employee contribution. I want adequate funding for all of the outside agencies, which apparently is around 10 million. I want money for the reserve, because without that, I think we're only going to kick the can down the road, and we won't be able to be sustainable in the future. Two more things, essentially. I want money to help fight blight. I want a cleaner city. I want the fulfillment of the community commitments that we have made, because our word is our bond, and if we don't stand on it, then we are nothing. To finish, I really liked actually the out-of-box thinking that Commissioner Wynn expressed in one of your last meetings, and I want to hear more about those. And I hope they actually inspire us, not just to other ideas, but to action. And if we can see some of those put into place sooner, that's fine, but if not, for next year's budget, that would be wonderful. Again, I thank you for your service. I hope to see a budget tonight that contains not only these items, but really to help us move forward, not to make us stagnant.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate your patience. Appreciate you being here. Duncan Soror. Duncan Soror. Cleora Smith or Cleona Smith, Woodard Avenue.
Evening to the mayor and the other officials and everybody here. We know right now our checkbook is unbalanced, and whatever we need to do to get our checkbook balanced so we can continue to go on, I pray that we do so. I know it's a hard thing for us to go through. I'm 77 years old. I've been retired twice. I lost my 401k in 2007, and I'm still having to work. So you know I don't need my taxes to go up. So now I'm having to, in order to be able to live at home in peace and not be scared to come out my door, because I already got one of the biggest drug dealers living in front of my door where I raised my 5 children. I want to live in peace the rest of my life. So whatever we can do to keep the people on their jobs, because we know if they don't get a job, have a job, crime gonna get worse. So we need to be able to go in Kroger's and come out and our groceries not get took. We need to be able to pay our light and gas bill, and I want to be able to come out my door and feel like I can get in my car and I don't have company out there waiting on me. So please, whatever we can do, let's pray hard and do it tonight. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Fraser Lively. Fraser Lively. Pass. Thank you, ma'am. Shelby Neal. Ms. Neal, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you. I'm sort of on a catch-22 here. I worked really hard, run my mouth a lot, stayed on people's back to get the rec center out on Houston Road. And here I am, retired on a very limited income. So I'm sort of between, I want that rec center. I go in there, I see the pool is full. I understand they're about 300 a day, between 200 and 300. Well, that's $200 a day that comes in there. When you do the math on that, it's running maybe around $2,000 or better a month that's coming in. They have Zumba at $5 a person 3 times a week. So money's coming in to that rec center. Okay, I go into the basketball courts. We have young people playing in basketball court, very diverse. Makes me feel so good. They're getting along really well, playing good basketball. So I'm at a catch-22. I don't know how I'm going to pay any more taxes. I want the rec center. So I'm sort of like the lady with Wendy's. Where's the beef? I want to know where's the money. But then I also live where I wanted to know about this with planning and zoning. I didn't know it was an outside agency. I had to pay a lot of money to get a small business and into planning and zoning. If y'all are funding that, why are we having to pay a lot of money to get a small business? First time I went before me, it took them about 2 seconds to say no. Second time, it took them about 2 seconds to say yes. So I just need to know, why are we funding them with them getting money? And I love planning and zoning. I know I see some people here from it. I just wonder about that. But I pulled up some stuff today. On February 25th, 2015 at 11:34 a.m., it was telling about a consolidation, and this was WMAZ. And here it says Charles Cooney, manager of operation, makes $114,795 a year, more than double before we were consolidated. Okay. Then we had Chris Floor, doubled his at $84,860 a year. Now this was in February 25th. Mayor, you did take a cut, $500 a year. But you know, you did take a cut. Okay, Julie Moore. Now, I don't even know these people I'm talking about, so I don't know who I'm talking about. I'm just saying their position was $87,235. And then we got County Manager Dale Walker, $163,404.80, and his was $139. I don't know why we have to have so many people managing. I thought we voted in managers. And I don't know what a commissioner makes, but I just got told that y'all make $15,000 a year. Is that true? Just shake your head. Okay, you don't make enough. You don't make enough for what you do. But some of these are making too much for what they do, because this is what Mayor Rickner, you said, and then I'm going to leave. I'm going to say it. Mayor Rickner, you said this time on WMAZ, more responsibility justifies more pay, and that's fair compensation for a team that strengthens and improving Macon-Bibb. This was in 2015. Look where we're at today.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Really appreciate it. Harold Franklin, passed. All right, sir. Tim Hardy, maybe Tim Hardy. Rogers Road, Tim Hardy. All right, sir. You're recognized to speak, sir.
Listening to me today.
Adjust that microphone so we can.
I said I thank y'all for listening to me today. I know that y'all gonna do what you want to do, but y'all need to consider the old people. I'm 69 years old. I only have so much money coming in every month, and I can't go to Social Security and say the county's going up on my taxes. I need more money. What am I gonna do? And I'm disappointed in a lot of you people. I really am. It's no excuse for some of this stuff. Like the medical center and Mercer University, all these people, every time they buy a piece of property, it goes off the tax rolls. And it's just, pretty soon you're not gonna have any tax base left. You know, why do y'all keep letting these people get away with this? I don't understand it. It's kind of stupid if you want my opinion. And on top of that, I think consolidation thing was the biggest prank that's ever been pulled on this county. Really. It's a hoax. What did it get by with? 17% of the vote? 17% of the people in this county voted for it. It's ridiculous. And I think that next time I see my state representative, I'm going to see if they can't pass a law that says if 50% of the people in the county do not vote for it, it can't become a law. You know, it's stupid. That's my opinion. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Mr. McCrary, Chantel McCrary. Excuse me, Ms. McCrary. Chantel McCrary.
Good evening,
You're
everyone.
recognized to speak.
Good evening. I stand in the gap for the whole community. I have 4 kids, and all of the facilities are important, very important. But speaking on the Parks and Recreation, you know, I think that may be one of the ones that y'all may think is least, when it's not. It really will, like the young man said, have a big impact on the community, especially the upcoming generation that has nothing else to do other than, when they get bored, you know, make their own decision to go play basketball, swim, or anything like that that's pertaining to the Parks and Recreations. Those kids love it. I don't know if y'all know or not, but the Bloomfield Pride team, which is a team that my 10-year-old son is on, my youngest child, they just went to Griffin, Georgia, and brought back the championship. And then they turned around, the games that they won in Griffin, Georgia, it made them eligible to go to Mississippi. They went to Mississippi, and we're 3rd in the world and #1 in Georgia. That is like magnificent to those kids, and it gives them hope. Like the young man said, it gives them hope in their future when they don't have the right parental guidance at home. It gives them somewhere to go when they feel lost, because you have people that have jobs there that actually care about them as their own parents. And you know, I understand what the lady said about it being emotional. I have been very restless since I've heard this news. Very restless. And none of this doesn't affect me right now, just as well as it doesn't affect y'all at this moment. But who's to say tomorrow your situation may not change? You know, someone in your family may not need Meals on Wheels right now, but tomorrow may be different. You may have 2 or 3 cars right now, but tomorrow may be different, where you need the Macon Transit. You know, so it really is heartfelt. It saddens me, you know, to know that we can be surrounded around people that we have entrusted in, voted for, you know, to turn around and tell us that everything that we need and rely on can be snatched away from the people who relies on it on a day-to-day basis. You know, I feel like y'all should be more humble about it. You keep speaking numbers and budget, just like we have to sacrifice, you know, some things in our pockets to get this thing done, but put your trust in God. I know you got some money somewhere, like you said in the safety last night in the meeting about the safety pot, but you can't touch that. Put some faith in it. Sacrifice. God gonna make a way. Just do the right thing. Every time, you cannot go wrong doing the right thing. I leave y'all with this. Proverbs 20:11. Even a child is know by his deeds whether what he does is pure and right. So at the end of the day, search your hearts and just do what's right. That's all it takes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much, Ms. McCray. Gwen Westbrooks. Gwen Westbrooks. Ms. Westbrook, you're recognized to speak. Brevity would be appreciated. We've still got about 10 more to go.
I want to say, and I haven't said a whole lot because so many people have been here and saying things that I was going to say. But I just want to say this. I know consolidation was a mistake. I sat here in the meetings that was held prior to consolidation, and at that time they could not tell us any more than what we know now as far as when it comes to the money. So I know consolidation was a mistake. I'm not here to criticize anyone, But I do ask that you take in consideration, I'm looking at the amendments. It's very crucial that we do not cut our parks and recs. Our children need parks and recs. They need something to do with all the crime and everything that's going on. We do need to make sure that we do not cut the funding for our parks and recreation. I do think about the garbage. I know that you all have a contract with Advanced Solutions, but I think if they're not fulfilling their obligations, we need to put our county workers back to work, because we did not have this problem before that. I just paid $300 for a property that no one even lives at, and we can't get the garbage picked up there now. Across the street from me, I had to call them. Garbage been sitting out there for over a month, and it has not been picked up. So we did not have this problem. I think we need to put our county workers back to work, and if they are not fulfilling their contract, it needs to be voided. I gave you a handout, and I want to talk about this. This is very dear to me because I've worked in healthcare all my life, not as a nurse or anything like that, but in an administrative position. And I'm still working with in some way of healthcare. When we start issuing money, and I've been down here before, I've been here and I've talked about Navicent. I've been here and I talked about not cutting their funds. But now, the figures that I've given you, indigent care is very important in this community. The county is providing money to Navicent for indigent care, for taking care of our patients that cannot afford health care. And from the handout I'm giving you, that's an open record request that I requested from them.
Thank you, Ms. Westbrook. Your time is up. We appreciate your patience and we appreciate your comments.
I'm up. It's people that have been here that have spoken in every commissioner meeting that's been here, and this is my first time speaking. I haven't been up here. What's the time limit? Because I've been sitting here the whole time, and you've allowed people to speak longer than I have.
We've been trying to hold everybody to 3 minutes.
Well, sir, I don't think it's fair, and I'm against what you're saying. I will obey what you're saying, but I've sat here and I watched you let people speak for 5 minutes. And it's not fair. You may not want to deal with Navicent issue. I don't know why, but I want to deal with it because I think it should be heard.
Go right ahead, Ms. Westbrook. Go right ahead.
Okay, now I'm looking at the numbers. Bibb County has over 150,000 people and citizens here that makes up Bibb County as in a population. Navicent Health Service, 5 different counties. We're looking at 2018, and they only serving 393 people that are receiving care partners. That means that they're receiving a clinic call, which is indigent care. That's nothing when you're servicing that many people in this community. Now, they have First Choice housed at Navicent, which seen almost 9,200 patients last year. So somebody's being misled, because if you have First Choice housed at Navicent, that's where the patients are going to. We're providing indigent money for Navicent to provide indigent care for our patients, for our community, and they're not doing that. I'm not saying that to not give them the money. What I'm saying is that we need to hold them accountable. There needs to be some type of report that they give to you all to show that they're doing what they're supposed to do with the money that you're giving them, because I'm looking at this report from 2013 to 18, and they are not providing the care to the community that they should be. 388 patients is nothing. You can't count emergency room visits because everybody that goes to the emergency room is not indigent. And the only thing I'm asking you to do is hold them accountable. This is very dear to my heart because I've watched it, I've seen it all, and when one person in a family's health fails, it destroys the whole family. So we need to take a look at the way we're issuing money that's provided to Navicent when it comes to providing indigent care to our patients.
Thank you, Ms. Westbrook. Robert Hoyt. Robert Hoyle. H-O, H-O, help me with it.
H-O-Y-T, I think.
Hoyt.
Is it Hoyt? On Sandra Fe Drive?
Sandra Fe Drive. I'm sorry. Is it Mr. Hoyt? Floyd, I'm so sorry. It does look like an FL9. Mr. Floyd, please excuse me.
All right,
You're
my name is
recognized to
Robert
speak.
Floyd, and I'm gonna try to tell you the truth about all this. This city messed up too much money. Let's just be honest with it. You raise people's taxes 5 years straight in a row in the city. You did. Then you turn right around and paraded all the stuff that you're supposed to use those taxes to fix to give you a $290 million splash. And you still haven't done none of it. Then you got another splash in 2016. And you mean to tell me you broke? That's $600 million. How in the world can you be broke? Somebody messing up too much money. That's all there's to it. Somebody messing up too much money. Either you stealing it or you giving it away. Which one are you doing? Now, it's only one person, one, out of all of you, that I hold non-accountable because she just got him. The rest of you been here from the old city, in fact. And you still haven't done nothing. There's people out there make minimum wage. How do you expect them to do? What do you expect them to do? Mr. Ricker, you got a $14 million blight. 5 million up, poof, disappear right off the top. You gave the rest of it to them. What did you fix? Nothing. Only 3 groups of people that I care about: police, fire department, and school teachers. You see what I'm saying? I don't need police and the fire department all the time. I pay them just in case. I pay the school teachers for the babies. I don't need them. I'm 63 years old, so I don't need them. So you need to start getting your money straight and stop giving it all away to every time somebody show up say, give me $1 million, there you go. But we got to pay that. I'm out there walking behind a lawnmower every day in that hot sun. You think I want to be out there and then get them under you? I've been complaining about the drainage ditch behind my property for 20 years, and ain't nobody did nothing yet. I told all of you when them show Mixed in the Morning was on, with Kenny being charged. I've been telling you this for a long time. That's right. And y'all still ain't did nothing. You said, Mr. Ricker, you said you don't print, the city don't print money. You remember saying that? You think any of us do? We don't print it either.
Thank you,
So
Mr.
y'all
Floyd.
need to get some business about y'all self.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. We appreciate your
These
comments.
two right here complain about a slot machine. You remember you doing that? But you ain't said nothing about that lottery.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Floyd.
it's harder to win the lottery than it is to win the slot machine.
We appreciate your comments. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate your comments.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Hollingshed, Johnny Hollingshed. Let's give Mr. Hollingshed your attention, please.
Well, they don't have any problem hearing me. I want to say hello to everybody. Thank you for your service. I just wanted to say I've been listening to everybody and I've been watching, and I am Macon-born. When I left the hospital and went to Tender Height, that's where I went when I left the medical center. There are 5 trees in the back of Eugenia and Hamilton. Well, now they call it Cyrus Academy. But those 5 trees back there, my 4th grade class planted 4 of the bigger ones And then there's a smaller tree next to the 4 that I came back years later and planted myself. So I am ingraded. This is my home. I didn't transplant here or any of that stuff. And there have been many times, I do understand that emotionality and practicality are often adversaries. And I keep listening, and I keep waiting, and I've heard all these metaphors and euphemisms and colloquialisms, all these things being used today. But there's a difference in my mind between actuality and reality. And I think we've got some of these things confused. And there are some things that I think are very great that have been done, but at what cost? It's like you have a winning football team, and when they win, they attract more attention, and then the monies that you get for that, you go out and buy more advertising and more marketing, but you don't buy better shoes to play in. I have to consider when I want to go to this corner store for a soda, I got to consider tearing my car up on my street because the money is obviously not being put back there. So I think our infrastructure is very important. I think it's a great thing when we do all these things at Parks and Recreation and improve the Park and Recreation centers. But when that little kid, he goes there and he's got this youth, this, oh man, he's just so enthused and euphoric feeling at the Parks and Recreation Center. But when he goes back home to Blythe. He goes back home to so much discouraging stuff that it makes it hard for him to be excited even at home. So now he doesn't want to be home. He wants to be at the Park and Recreation Center instead. I think the Blythe situation is far greater than we acknowledge. I think it has far greater psychological effect on this city than we acknowledge. I think that we concentrate too much on expansion instead of the foundation of the city. We keep doing more expanding, but our streets are raggedy. They're hard to travel on. So I think we need to stop so much of the expansion and fix the infrastructure. I love Mercer University. I was in Upward Bound there, but we are not Mercer. I love the benefits and the help that I can get at Navicent, but we are not Navicent. We are Macon, and Macon needs to be put first, and that is all I have to say.
Thank you. Sonia Rivers. Sonia Rivers. Hey, Ms. Rivers, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you for listening to me this evening. I hope to bring a slightly different perspective. I was born in Macon and graduated from school here. I left in the last few years, and I'm coming back. I'm coming back because I got a job in Macon. Why did I get a job? Because I had a library to go to apply for that job. I had access to computers so I could look up work. I had scanners, copiers to get all the documents I needed to get that job. Now, here's the thing. I'm coming back for work, and I have to make a decision. Do I want to own a home here, or do I want to rent a home here? When I see commissioners proposing a budget that is going to plummet our city into further poverty, the answer to that is I want to rent a home here temporarily. I do not want to sink any money here. I do not want to be paying property taxes here for my funds to be mismanaged. I think I speak for a lot of people. When you take away people's access to health care, to jobs, to information, you are plummeting them into poverty. What happens with a city that is in poverty? Crime goes up. What happens when crime goes up? People leave. This is not an unknown story. This is happening for a long time. What you have done with this mismanaged funds is further drag our city's name through the mud in Middle Georgia. Many people do not want to relocate to Macon, and I can't blame them. This is your problem. You need to fix it. You should never have put your citizens in this position where they have to wonder, can they pay their rent or the property taxes, or will they lose their ability to public transportation to go to work, to get health care? You shouldn't put your citizens in this position. You shouldn't drive away people And you shouldn't make people ask, do I want to rent? Do I want to buy? I don't want to buy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. We appreciate your comment. Tanya Kabir. Ms. Kabir, thank you for being here and for your patience. You're recognized to speak.
Thank you, sir, and thank you all. Honestly, I could really just echo what my friend Sonia said. We actually went to school together. I am from Macon, raised here, and as a citizen and taxpayer here, I started a petition, an online petition, to pretty much get the commission to amend the budget. You guys know we need quality of life services. I think everyone in this room knows we need quality of life services. People have spoken very eloquently and passionately about that, so I won't belabor the point. I have a petition here along with Chantel McCrary, who we have combined our efforts, and we have about 1,000 signatures to really just ask you to do what is right, to amend the budget, to restore these quality of life services, and to provide for your citizens, provide for the people who voted for you, to provide for the people who put their confidence in you. And so just wanted to present that to you today. Don't want to belabor the point. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bear. We appreciate you being here. Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. Ms. McBride, Maxine McBride. Maxine McBride. Thank you for your patience. You're recognized to speak.
Thank you. I would just like to say the last time that I was before the commissioners and you, Mayor, I wanted to tell you that I came to you and I asked you and all the county commissions to work together for a specific purpose that we were trying to achieve in this city. And we were able to do that. In one day, this city came together, you all came together, and you were able to acquire, we were able to acquire a $1 million grant for this city for child care to be upgraded, for literacy, and for all of that for this city. Not only did you come together, the sheriff department came together, and also people in the community and the religious center came together. You all wrote a letter saying how you wanted this city to become a better, more educated community. And we beat Augusta for the grant that lasted 3 years to improve the quality of education for our young citizens. Yet, I feel like I wasted a year of my time in doing so because you cut the library for the least of these and those who need it the most. Yet, back in 2013, you wanted to be a more productive city. Don't go backward, go forward, move forward. And not only that, transportation. We need, how are you going to pay taxes that we are proposing to raise if the people can't get to work? There are citizens who depend on transportation daily in this city. How are they going to pay their taxes? But nobody thought about that when they were cutting, huh? Our garbage fees. They can't pay garbage fees if they can't get to work. You've got to look at where you want to go as a city. I was looking on the internet the other day, and I was looking at Macon, and they were saying the number of worst places to live in the state of Georgia. Do you know Macon was number 1? Macon was number 1.
Thank you, Ms. McBride.
That's scary.
Thank you, Ms. McBride.
To me, as a Maconite, that's scary.
And then you want to take parks and recreation. You've got people who can't get to work because they don't have transportation, and you've got people that can't take their kids to parks and rec, so they're at home. I worked for the government to make this city for 12 years better. And even back then, it was 12 of us tackling all the problems of this city. And here's the problem. Even back then, we worked for 3 years. At the end of the 3 years, we were supposed to be hired by the city, but you didn't have any money. Back then.
Thank you, Ms. McBride.
So I'm just saying, come together and work together as a team to overcome these things. That's all I'm asking.
Thank you, Ms. McBride. We appreciate your comments and appreciate you being here. Carmen Foster. Ms. Foster, you're recognized to speak. For brevity, again, would be appreciated.
I wanted to talk to you guys today.
Adjust that microphone just a little bit so we can hear you better.
Can you guys hear me now? I wanted to talk to you guys today briefly about some things. I'm in a similar situation as the young lady spoke about moving back to Macon. I've spent most of my adult life in other cities. While I was in those other cities, I would keep in touch with what was going on in Macon, and it just disappointed me, some of the decisions that have been made. I stand before you now. A lot of things that everyone said, I appreciate. I echo those same issues and concerns, so I won't just badger that to death. Macon Transit Authority is part of the heartbeat of our city. It affects so many different people. It affects members of my family directly. To include employment with them, it's troubling to find out within days that you don't have a job to feed your children and family. I don't see how anybody could vote no, or to vote to defund something so crucial. That's ridiculous in my opinion. Then you have members of the community who require Meals on Wheels. You risk the health of our seniors, or I like to call them seasoned citizens, by denying them those simple things. Now, moving forward, I wanted to say something in reference to where we are, because we know mistakes have been made for years and years and years and years and years, and since I've been on this earth with our city council, it's just a fact. But where do we go from now, from here? That's what I'm more interested in. I'm more interested in how do we adjust this budget to be able to fund the things that need to be funded, property taxes. Right now, that's the Band-Aid. But we don't need to be in the same situation we were in where property taxes are raised, we get money in the reserves, somebody blows the budget, then you have to take the money out the reserves and put it back into, the budget, and then we have no money, and next July we're singing the same song and dancing, and we're doing the same thing. So how do we prevent this from happening again?
Your time has expired. Can you wrap it up, please?
I will wrap it up. I would like for us to look into ways to, I learned some information on Saturday about how much we spend in our court and public safety. I'm not proposing any sort of manpower decrease, but there are ways, and you can look at, for instance, what the Department of Community Supervision did in going virtual with some aspects. Some things making some jobs where there you don't require a structure that you would have to pay lease for to keep it, you know, maintenance on, but you still have the same manpower that you work from home. You have virtual meetings, things of those nature.
Thank you for
So that is what I want to see.
Thank you
I
for
want
your
to see
suggestions.
moving forward some ways to
Thank you for your suggestions. Very
decrease
helpful.
the spending and get that money, put it back in the reserves,
Thank you.
and we don't have to go through this again.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments and appreciate your patience and you being here.
Thank
you very much. Olivia Grayer. Ms. Grayer, are you still with us? Want to speak? Olivia Grayer? Don't see Ms. Grayer at this point in time, and we have reached the end of public comments. And believe me, I think what you have heard has accentuated the difficulty of the decision that confronts us here, with everybody needing the services, but nobody wanting any additional taxes to pay for them. Right, and we understand that. We know that. But just in our defense, I'll just have to tell you that we reduced spending over 4 years by 20%, as required by our charter, so we are very aware of spending. So having reached the end of public comments, next thing is reports from standing committees, and the first committee is Operations and Finance, and Vice Chairman Jones will give us that report. Vice Chairman Jones.
Yes, sir. From June the 26th, we took the following action. These are from SPLOST dollars, $450,000 from the 2017 SPLOST bond proceeds and/or 2018 SPLOST revenues, cultural and public auditorium. $1,442,130 from the 2017 SPLOST bond proceeds and/or 28 SPLOST revenue, parks and recreation, Central City Park. $5,600,000 from the 2017 SPLOST bond proceeds and/or 28 SPLOST revenues, debt retirement. From the same SPLOST bond proceeds 27 and 2018, $2,307,408. Revenue, parks and recreation, Freedom Park. $1,922,840 from 2017 and 2018 SPLOST revenue, stormwater management to various Macon Water Authority. The committee approved the following agreements and contracts: an intergovernmental agreement with the Macon-Bibb County Board of Health relating to funding of a health department SPLOST project, an intergovernmental agreement with River Edge Behavioral Health relating to funding of a mental health SPLOST project. That concludes the report.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Jones. Is this Olivia? Come to the podium, please, ma'am. We're sorry you had to come up. Yeah. You'll recognize, pull that. Ms. Grayer.
Yes.
You're recognized.
Hello, everyone. How y'all doing? I'm leaving from the Boys and Girls Club. I don't know. I'm kind of hoarse and tired, but haven't been to visit the Boys and Girls Club. So my thing is about that. When I come to work in the evening, I work 2 jobs. First I put on the list about my property tax. No, I can't afford to pay any more taxes that I do need to pay. And I did call to talk about my garbage fees. So I was told that I had to make a payment arrangement in order to, if I had a choice, either to pay the payment arrangement, either my house note to go up, or either they'll put a lien on my house for it's my property tax. Something I cannot afford. So therefore I'm working 2 jobs. And my second job is the Boys and Girls Club. So if any of y'all been in there and see how the kids really enjoy when they get out of school, or either the summer program, how they really are to have somewhere to go to be at the Boys and Girls Club. parents, they get a break. So when they leave, when they have work long hours and kids don't got on their nerves, that we are to talk to them about the things that they need to talk about, or some things that parents cannot have time to listen to. So to know that they are in part of the cuts, you got to understand kids, or you got to be able to see what some of them, the food that they get, it might be the last meal they do have. Some of them, when they leave, I give them the lunch to take with them. So it's a lot of things that y'all need to be in question about, the things that y'all want to cut or need to cut, and think about it. You got kids of your own. Think about if some of them wanted to go there. I got a 1-year-old grandbaby now. He might want to be in the Boys and Girls Club. But at the same time, you got to think about the things that y'all want to do as Macon as a whole, with all us involved. In this city, need prayer. And our crime rate, you talking about taking this and taking that. Look at the crime, look where we at now. The sheriff department already short need people. But we need help. So y'all need to think about it as y'all go into y'all meetings. And thank you.
Thank you very much for your patience, and thank you for being here and for your comments. Our next committee report was from Economic and Community Development. I think Chairman Lucas will give us that report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and fellow commissioners. It is just such a pleasure to see so many people out and actively involved. We'd like to see that continue. The Economic and Community Development Committee met on June the 26th, 2018, and took the following action. The committee approved the reappointment of Pearlie Tolliver to the Macon Housing Authority. And at this time, Mr. Mayor, we recommend adoption of that.
It's on the agenda for a little later.
Okay. All right. So that was our first action. The committee heard updates from the Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority, the Urban Development Authority regarding the parking plan. And that is online, I believe, Mr. Floor. It is online if you want to review that. We also had a report from Recreation Director, Bowden Golf Course, and you will be interested to know that going forward, we will have further information on a proposal for a possible cultural arts commission. So we'll be bringing that back in future committee meetings. This concludes the report of the Economic and Community Development Committee.
Thank you, Chairman Lucas. No report from Public Safety, and a final report from the Facilities and Engineering Committee, I think will be given to us by Vice Chairman Shepard. Vice Chairman Shepard.
Thank you. The Facilities and Engineering Committee met June 26, 2018, and had a short agenda. The committee amended Section 6-76 of the code relating to the registration of vacant and foreclosed on realty by increasing the registration fee to $100. Now that completes the report of the Facilities and Engineering Committee.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Shepard. That brings us to the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of 6 applications for alcoholic beverage licenses. Each of these license applications is accompanied by all of the requisite paperwork. The certification from the sheriff that a satisfactory background check has been done on the applicant. The Business Development Services certification that the appropriate fees have been paid. Planning and Zoning compliance certificate, and a measurement form from the county engineer to certify that it meets all of the distance requirements, as well as a copy of the ad that ran in the Macon Telegraph for the requisite period of time. These licenses are as follows. The first is for Macon Secured LLC, doing business as RJ's Food Mart at 2311 Pioneer Avenue. That is for beer package sales to go at that location. The second application is by Zoe's Kitchen at 5080 Riverside Drive, Suite 324. That is for beer and wine to be consumed on the premises at that location. The third license application is by Cy Ram Gas Mart Incorporated, doing business as Exxon at 1105 Gray Highway. in Macon, and that is for beer and wine package sales to go at that location. The fourth license is Sunoco Food Mart at 3910 Arkwright Road. That is for beer and wine package sales to go from that location. And the fifth license is by Food Mart at 4224 Bloomfield Road, and that also is for beer and wine package sales to go. And finally, the New China Grill and Buffet of Macon, Incorporated at 5056 Eisenhower Parkway, and that is for beer consumed on the premises at that location. The Committee of the Whole reviewed these earlier this afternoon and recommends the issuance of these 6 licenses. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the issuance of these licenses signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and those licenses will be issued as requested. That then brings us to old business, and the first item of old business is an amendment to the budget that we adopted on June the 28th to restore funding to the recreation, parks, and beautification, as well as the Bowden Golf Course, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to adopt an amended budget and appropriate sums for the operation of the Macon-Bibb County government for fiscal year 2019, to adopt the Macon-Bibb County organizational chart for fiscal year 2019, to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances, and to provide for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Commissioner Jones, I've got your light on first, and you're recognized to speak, sir.
Appropriate time, I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda, but it has to do with the Macon Transit Authority regarding the $215,108 from the 2017 audit that they are due from Macon-Bibb County government. So whether that's now or whenever you think appropriate, I want to add that.
When we get, that'll be item L on the agenda, and when we get to that, your amendment would be appreciated. Is there further discussion about this first ordinance to restore funding in the budget to, I believe it's $7.594 million, and with the understanding that that's going to be an additional 1.83 mils of tax? I have a floor amendment here that I have discussed earlier that I would like to attach to each of these amendments, that says in pertinent part that any amendments to the interim budget as approved by the Commission on Thursday, June the 28th, 2018, shall cease to be effective on August the 31st, 2018, if the Commission fails to adopt the necessary millage rate increases for funding said amendments on or before August the 31st, 2018. I would like to have that amendment adopted as part of each of these. Got a motion and second to amend each of these 8 ordinances to say that they're accompanied by the necessary millage rate, and if we fail to do that, then the amendment is right. Is there further discussion about the floor amendment? Mr. Schlesinger, Commissioner Schlesinger?
About the amendment.
Oh, okay. All right. Is there further discussion about the amendment? If not, all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and these 8 will be, these amendments will all have this floor amendment attached to them. Is there further discussion about amendment item A, which is the amendment to restore funding to recreation, parks, and beautification and Bowden Golf Course? Commissioner Schlesinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make the same statement that I've made the last few meetings, and that is this: I am going to vote for the amendments because I think we need to have all of the options on the table for full commission to consider this evening. However, I am not going to vote for any budget plan that has a millage rate increase attached to it. District 2 that I represent is the most impoverished and the most blighted district in the entire county. Along with that goes people who are on fixed incomes. We've heard a number of people say that any increase is not a good increase for them. And we also have a lot of elderly and people who are living at the poverty line or below. The figure that I've heard is that 25% of the population here is at that poverty line or below, and District 2 has more than its fair share. I voted for a 3 mil increase reluctantly last year. I promised that I would not do that again, and I'm just going to keep my word. So I'll be voting for the amendments, but I'm going to vote against any proposal with a millage rate increase.
Thank you, Commissioner Schlesinger. Commissioner Allen.
Thank you, Mayor, and to all our colleagues up here and to the people out there in the audience. Mr. Mayor, I'm going to vote against everything due to the fact I don't think we spend enough time back in the room talking about everything that's going on. As I said before, y'all hold it down. As I said before, this is so important when you're talking about people's lives, their food, and everything. And I'm hoping that it gets voted down. I'm gonna vote, like I said, I'm voting against everything. Hopefully, we'll bring it back, and we'll put, rather than putting 2 hours here or 2 hours there, it needs a lot more time. And I've been to all the meetings except maybe one, and we've not spent enough time to really work and come up with something that's can help the people. I don't think we've done that. I've been in this business a long time, and I'm saddened to say that I feel that we've just not done our job. So I just wanted that to be told. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Commissioner Wynn, got your light on next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too have committed myself to not increasing our millage rate here in our community. We did that last year. Things have not been done over the last 3 to 4 years that have brought our budget back into line. We've been really without a true budget for the last 3 years. It's not to say that I don't believe that any of these things are worthy and important to our community. I just think that we have other expenses to look at and other spending to look at. There were some good things said tonight. There's some other ideas I can bring to the table. I agree with Commissioner Allen that we need to spend more time on this and look through it as a whole committee to determine where we need to go with our spending and our expenses.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Commissioner Schlesinger, back to you, sir.
I just want to say that I think as a commission that we can't leave here tonight with the budget that is now in place remaining in place. We need to find something that we all can agree upon that will really reflect the opinions that have been expressed here tonight. If we end up at the end of this evening with it at a standstill in deadlock at an impasse, then I am going to propose what Mr. Harden earlier alluded to, and that's going to be a across the board decrease that will fund our outside agencies, and I'll speak more about this later on if we get to it, and not involve a millage rate increase.
Thank you, Commissioner Schlesinger. Mayor Pro Tem Tillman, got you next, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. With all due respect to my colleagues, we've had an opportunity to look over this budget for more than 50 days. And for somebody to sit up here and insult the rest of the commission and say we hadn't had enough time, I mean, just own up to it. You're scared. Just own up to it. Scared to make a decision. This public has spoken, and it's okay to listen to folks and you have your thoughts in mind, But it's okay sometimes when folks say, well, I looked at it, I thought about it, and people have talked to me, and they've come to me, and they said how it's going to impact them, and I didn't realize how it was going to impact them. So I think, the public is clearly with us and understand. And that's the majority of what I hear and see. And so, we can't be afraid to make a decision based upon a few people that, we know in our districts. I mean, I don't know what we're planning to do here. I mean, you can't say I support it on one hand and I don't on the other. I mean, just be straight up. I mean, people mad with us. Ain't no going back. Ain't nothing we say or do. They still got their same feeling, whether we go with it or not. They still gonna have their same feeling. So pass the amendment. Go with it. Go with it. Let's go with it.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Commissioner Wynn had your light on next, and
In all due respect to my colleagues here, I've had just a week to be on this commission. I have been attending the commissioner meetings and the committee meetings for the last 3 months, but I've not been given a chance to really say what I think we should be doing. So when I say we're not ready, I need to do something else, it's because I'm not ready, but I'm not scared. I'm not afraid a bit to make a decision for this city. I want to do the best I can for this city. That's why I was elected. I think we need to work on our budget, look at some things we need to cut. We need to look at our spending. I was elected to be fiscally accountable to my constituents. That's part of the reason I was elected. The other reason is time after time, almost 100%, I was told, do not raise our property taxes again. Do not put this burden on the property taxpayers again. And so I've tried to listen to my constituents, but I think I need some more input to this budget process. I haven't had a time to do that yet. So that's why I'm not voting for some of these things. I'm not voting for a millage increase. We have some other things we could do, but I'm not afraid.
thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Commissioner Watkins, got you next, sir.
Commissioner Tillman made the point that the Budget Committee, our due diligence. Our first budget proposed was 3.2 mils. A budget passed this body that put us at 149. There are things I think we all agree are missing. This first ordinance amendment today is asking the question, do you want a Parks and Beautification Department? Do you want a Recreation Department? It associates funding with it. I would be thrilled to talk about any more innovative ideas that any commissioner has to fund these separate from millage rate. This is the third day of FY fiscal year 19. I've quietly watched our committee pass a budget. It get remanded not back to the Operations and Finance Committee. Y'all decided when you first did this that the Operations and Finance Committee wasn't good enough, that you wanted to do the Committee of the Whole. Committee of the Whole took a budget and did whatever y'all did with it. Everybody was present, and then you voted on 149. It's missing some items. Committee, immediately when we made the vote on last week, I sat down with the county clerk and everybody else involved because I knew this wasn't going to work, and we did a meeting as soon as possible, 24 hours and 30 minutes after we got through, because I knew this wasn't going to fly. We are here today, 3 days later, with a way to restore funding to everybody. It requires a millage rate increase. If you don't want a millage rate increase, 200 people do not work or are associated with the county. That it can be from the ones that y'all already agreed to, or you can go back and tell a new set of folks that they're gone. But I don't have a magic money solution. We can meet many, many times. We are weighted very heavily towards staff and salary, very heavily. To do what you want to do, to cut $14 million for this budget, what we've already done is laid off for RIF 200 plus individuals from our general employees as well as other outside agencies. Now, if you want to redistribute that in some type of way and make it so the sheriff's department is losing people, The IT department is losing people. The 3 lawyers that we have, one of those go away. You can do that, but even then, the time was in June or May to have those type of discussions. Today, we are asking for amendments to restore funding to parks and beautification, and the recreation department is item A. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Watkins. We got Commissioner Jones next, and Commissioner Allen.
Yes, sir. This whole budget process has been a struggle. We should have never been at this place and point in time. We've discussed that at length in public, in meetings. We should never be at this point, but we are. We are at this point. While I respect the views of my associates, we're gonna have to have a mill increase. We've got to have it. There's no way around it. We can come up with all the creative ideas you want to come up with, but right now at this point in time, there's not enough time to put all those in place. Now along the way, we didn't take some of the advice of the financial consultants. We didn't incorporate the 10-point plan that the healthcare regarding healthcare that would have saved $1.2 million. I think Gary Bexel and I were the only two who supported that. We didn't, even though it's in my proposal, which I'll cover later, we didn't accept 4% contribution from active participants in all 3 pension plans. We should do that. It's reasonable. It saves us $2.5 million. But we put it off. All these problems are going to be here again next year and the year after. And the lady who called it a Band-Aid approach, she's exactly right. We're not going to solve it. We're going to be looking at talking about this again, the very same thing next year, same time. So it's nice to say I don't want a millage increase, but my plan reduces that millage increase to like a 2.47. I'll talk about that later. And it funds all the agencies except 2. And I'll talk about that more at that point in time. One of them doesn't need the money. The other one, there's some questions I have. So it does not wipe out. There's nobody on this. I may only speak for myself. I don't think there's anybody here that wants to defund the library. Not going to happen. We don't want to defund Macon Transit Authority. We don't want to defund the health department and all these others. But we can only do so much. So it's not realistic to say we're not going to have I'm not voting for a millage increase. That may sound, you may be endearing some voters, but it's not realistic at this point where this juncture we are now in. You're going to have a millage increase. And we need to do some things, and we've got some of those on the agenda tonight that will make us more accountable, a better job of watching the dollars. But we've inherited a lot of stuff. Revenue projections were overestimated 3 years in a row. We all got some culpability in that, but we relied on the administration to give us accurate figures. We did not get those accurate figures. Consequently, we spent money and authorized the expenditure of money, all worthy, but we didn't have it. The forensic audit was brought up by well-intentioned commissioners. That means suitable for court, that you think that money was criminally taken or there was corruption involved. I don't think that's there, and it was explained to us by Miller Edwards from Alden and Jenkins that he recommended we not do that. His fiduciary responsibility said, I wouldn't do that. The last one I saw, they spent $700,000 on a forensic audit, and the net gain realized of $25,000. What he did say, and we'll cover this with an amendment later, but what he did say is your finance director should be accountable to the mayor and the commissioners, which hasn't been done, and you should have monthly reviews, and that finance and budget department ought to be together. So good advice. Hopefully we pass that later on tonight. But he said I would not recommend a forensic audit because I think you're wasting your money, and if you want me to look into a certain area, then I'm glad to to do a review in that area. So we all kind of came to the agreement, well, maybe that wasn't the best idea, but it was, I'm glad people were thinking and threw it out there. But the bottom line is we're going to have a millage increase, folks. We don't have any choice. We have no choice. Some people want to just wipe out everything and say, okay, no millage increase. That's not rational. We're going to have a millage increase, and we need to fund all but 2 agencies, in my view. They're all worthy,
Thank you, Mr.
but we
Jones.
need to fund those agencies and bite the bullet and move ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Allen, got you next. And
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make one small comment. My colleague, the Mayor Pro Tem, made a statement about us being scared. I've probably been doing this business, I know, longer than either one of the two, the Mayor Pro Tem as well as the Finance Chairman, in all my years, and been on Finance Committee a number of years longer than they have. I'm not scared of raising taxes. What I like to see is when, and they did bring up about bringing people, giving it to the committee as a whole. When I talked to you about that, I knew what was going to happen. I wanted every commissioner to sit there. Every commissioner should have a right to sit down, look at this budget as everyone else does, and decide how these monies are to be spent, if taxes are to be raised, what divisions get it or what divisions don't get it. That's all I'm asking for. We get back, we all sit at the table, not just a few, to decide and bring it to us, and then we look at it and then we vote on it. So that's all I need to say. Thank you, sir.
thank you, Commissioner Allen. Commissioner Watkins?
But I have tried to be as open in my hosting of meetings as I can. Members of the public, members of this commission, I encourage dialogue. And I apologize if anyone you think that somehow I tried to block you from attending a meeting or participating, but I think I've been more than open. But I yield.
Commissioner Lucas, I got your light on. Do you wish to speak on this?
I want to express appreciation to the my colleagues who serve on the Appropriations Committee, because we really have worked to try and do the very best job that we could. Up to this point, we have not had that kind of involvement in the budget process. In previous years, we've had a budget presented to us, and there was a rush to, you've got to get this passed. We've got a deadline. You got to get this passed. And also, commissioners were told, be a team player. Come on, let's try and make this work. All of you know I did not support consolidation, and it's been shown that it was not the solution that we were looking for. I think all of us wanted the government to work because it's what we have and what we must make work. However, there have been problems, and some people say, well, nobody said anything about it over the years. There are some of us who have raised concerns, who have asked questions, who have offered amendments. The present chair, Watkins, has, I know it's been 20, 30, 40 different proposals over these years that he's presented, and many of them have not been accepted. Some of those proposals were very, very good proposals, and we should have adopted those. The thing that we really are responsible for is not asserting ourselves as the legislative body over the years and making sure that we demanded of the previous chair that we have budget hearings, the kind of budget hearings that we are having at the present time. I think it's an insult to this chair and to the committee and those other commissioners who chose to come to those budget hearings. I think it's an insult that we now sit up and say, we just need more time. Time for what? We know what's facing us. We know that we've got a deficit facing us. We know that there is a budget that's been approved by 6 folks sitting up here that I think if they had had more time to think, they would have seen the devastating impact that it would have on this community. And I just applaud all of you for coming and expressing your concern for this community. We have a question to answer tonight. Do we restore funding to these agencies that provide for foster care services for children? Every one of your families has a need of that service somewhere, whether you know it or not. We need to decide whether we want the public health function to continue, where we have immunizations. You may go to your private doctor, but there are other folks that need immunizations to protect you from what they might have. So the public health function, are you wanting to not fund that? Tubman Museum, we heard today, one of the top ones in the country, and brings money in, along with the museum and Sports Hall of Fame. All of these different entities. What are you going to use to replace all of that? What about services to our citizens? Do you want to Aunt Mary, Grandma Joanne, Uncle Nate, they need a meal? There's a 200 person waiting list at Meals on Wheels. You decide which ones you're not going to take that meal to or provide those services to. We are not just sitting up here talking numbers. It's more than that. We are talking about jobs. We are talking about delivery of services. We're talking about providing activities for the youth and the seniors in our community. Or we can go ahead and start and continue increasing our corrections budget. So we're gonna either find the way and get the courage to provide those services here, or you're gonna pay somewhere else. So we might as well make up our mind. Are we gonna be mature folks? Are we gonna be realistic? Are we gonna go ahead and do what we need to do? Now, I don't wanna pay more taxes. And I voted against the $3 million, the budget last year, because it had the increase. But we've gotten so much more information, and the lines of communication are opening up, some forced, but they are opening up. And now we know that there are some things that we must do. We have financial advisors that are pushing us in the right direction as far as where we need to look to correct problems that are in our system. We are working to change the way the whole budgeting process operates. We are doing an awful lot to regain your confidence. But if we don't get some of these things reinstated, we're going to be forever dealing with these kinds of problems on top of future problems. So I would just encourage us to vote to approve these amendments. Let's we have employees for the last few days, those in transit and those in Parks and Rec, who have been in limbo. The libraries are in limbo. They don't know whether they're going to continue working or not. So let's not compound other problems by a wrong vote here. I'm going to vote to support these amendments. I hope we don't cut any more, because we're at the bone now. We've gone through the skin layer. We've gone through the, what's the next layer, y'all, biologists? What's the next layer? We've gone through that one. Me, it's the fat layer, but we've gone through that. Then we've gone through the next layer, the muscle, and now we're at the bone. We don't have any place else to cut, y'all. So I would just encourage you to go ahead and trust me, this committee is on top of stuff. Our internal auditor is being brought in to work and to review a lot of financial operations. And one in particular just recently caused us to terminate the contract of somebody who wasn't doing right by Macon-Bibb. So that shows that some of the things that are being put in place are working. So I would just encourage us to go ahead and deal with this. Let's get these funds restored, and then let's work on the next step, which is to get our financial house in order and make sure that we as a commission share in all of the information and the responsibility of keeping us financially solvent. So
Thank you.
I'm ready to vote.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. Got one more light. Mayor Pro Tem Tillman.
Call for the vote.
I think you were the last light, so without further discussion, ready to vote. I assume you want a roll call vote on this as opposed to hands? Or do you want a hand vote? We want to try a hand vote first, a little bit quicker, and see if we can get a hand vote. So all in favor of the amendment would vote yes, and those opposed would vote no. So all those in favor of the ordinance that would reinstate recreation parks and recreation and Bowden Golf Course, $7.59 million, 1.83 mils of tax associated with it, signify by raising your hand, please. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got 7 votes. Takes 6 to pass. Let me see the hands of the noes. 1, 2. Got 2 noes. 7 to 2. With Wynn and Allen being the 2 noes. Next item is the ordinance to reinstate the Transit Authority funding, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to adopt an amended budget and appropriate sums for the operation of the Macon-Bibb County government for fiscal year 2019, to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances, and to provide for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Tillman.
Call for the vote.
But nobody waiting either. So got a request to call the question. Is there a second? All in favor of calling the question, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The question's called. Let's see those wanting to reinstate funding for the Macon Transit Authority amount of $2,316,500 associated 0.57 mil increase would vote yes. Those opposed would vote no. Let me see the hands of those that want to vote yes, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Got eight votes to reinstate transit. Got one no, Commissioner Wynn. Third amendment is the ordinance to reinstate funding for the Middle Georgia Regional Library System, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption. I forgot to do that earlier, but I hope that don't invalidate it.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to adopt an amended budget and appropriate sums for the operation of Macon-Bibb County government for fiscal year 2019, to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances, and to provide for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. This ordinance would appropriate $2.8 million to reinstate funding for the library with an associated tax of 0.68 mils. Those in favor would vote yes. Those opposed would vote no. Let me see the hands of the yes, please. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. 1, 2. I'm sorry, was there further discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Tillman?
Call for the vote.
Oh. Commissioner Jones, I didn't mean to overlook you. Sorry.
I don't think you did. And I've got, all of this is a part of my comprehensive plan, so it's, friendly amendment for that to be $2,700,000. That's my proposal.
Is there a second? Without a second, the motion dies.
Okay.
So we're back to the main question. $2.8 million to reinstate funding for the library system. 0.68 mills associated with it. Those in favor would vote yes. All in favor signify by holding your hand. Please let me count the hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 to 2 to reinstate the funding. Again, Allen and Wynn were the two no votes there. Next is the ordinance to reinstate funding for River's Edge and the Health Department. And I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to adopt an amended budget and appropriate sums for the operation of the Macon-Bibb County government for fiscal year 2019, to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances, and to provide for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Mayor Pro Tem?
Call for the vote.
You got one light waiting. Is there a second for the call of the question? Got a second by Commissioner Lewison to call the question. All in favor of calling the question signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Whew, that was that was close. I'm gonna need a hand vote just so I can figure out whether or not you want to call the question. We're gonna spend more time doing it. Hand vote, huh? Yeah. Yeah. So a hand vote of those that want to call the question. Those that want to call the question signify by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed to calling the question. Let me see your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed. 5 to 4. The question's called. Sorry, Commissioner Jones. The question has been called. So the ordinance is to reinstate funding to the Health Department and to River Edge, and a total amount of $1,083,000 associated 2.6 mils of additional tax to cover that cost. Those in favor would vote yes, and those opposed would vote no. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Let me have a hand vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got 6. Those opposed, let me see your hands. 1, Wynn, 2, Jones, 3, Allen. So that passes 6 to 3 to reinstate Health Department funding. Next. Commissioner Jones?
See, this is the problem with doing it this way. It has its benefits, but then you say, well, you don't want to fund the health department? Of course I do. You don't want to fund River Edge? Of course I do. Just not at those amounts. It's not fair to say call the question every time like a jack-in-the-box over there when, you eliminate discussion. That's not fair.
Commissioner Jones, let's refrain from being derogatory or disparaging of other commissioners.
I apologize.
All right. Commissioner Wynn, did you have something?
Commissioner Jones, I think that by doing this, you're saying that we don't want these. That's not what we're saying. We're saying we want a reduced amount. That's all we're saying. That's all I'm saying. I'll speak for myself. So, able to call the question.
Good. Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. This is moving on. The next item is item E, which would be to restore funding to Navicent, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to adopt an amended budget and appropriate sums for the operation of the Macon-Bibb County government for fiscal year 2019, to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances, and to provide for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there a further discussion? Commissioner Jones?
Yes, sir. This is one of the two agencies that I'm not in support of funding. It sounds nice to put on the guise of indigent care. I've spoken on this for weeks and weeks and weeks. Love all the people at Navicent Health. Great doctors, great nurses, great staff, but they don't need the funds, and we don't have it. You know, even according to the CEO, in our March 27th meeting, she said we're an $800 million hospital. It came right from there. That's a net profit in 2016. Don't know the figures for 2017. We already give them a benefit of not paying taxes on 70 properties valued at $270 million. That's over $4 million that we, the people, have to pay. So I think we really bend over backwards for Navicent Health. They're a great asset to this community. Love all the people there. Got family members there last week. Going to be back there again. Love them. Love HCA. That's another great asset to this community. But we simply cannot give money to folks who don't need it. We don't have it.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Allen, got you next, sir.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, from the other board I was on, old commission coming up, we gave money to medical center, and now it's Navicent. We gave them millions and millions. Now we understand with the problem situation they're in, and they wanted us to get some skin in the game. Well, I think it's time that they get some skin in the game and give us some money back. That's all I need to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Mayor Pro Tem Tillman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Robert Rules of Order clearly states, you got the board. If it's my turn to speak, I can say whatever I desire when it's my turn to speak. And with that said, call for the vote.
Very good, Mayor Pro Tem Tillman moves to call the question. Is there a second? Got a second? A motion and a second to call the question. All in favor of calling the question, signify by saying aye. Yes, I had two waiting. So we had. I'm sorry. Give me those in favor of calling the question, signify by saying aye. You remove. Okay. Withdraw the second. So we're back now. Commissioner Wynn, words of wisdom.
Can I speak now?
Yes, ma'am. You're recognized.
Back what Commissioner Jones has said. I think the world of Navicent. That's where I want to get my health care. Probably I would go to HCA, but Navicent's just closer, and that's the main reason. But you know, when you don't need the money, and they don't need the money, in many ways, they'll still give indigent care. HCA Coliseum gives it. We give them nothing. They give more than sometimes Navicent does. I think we just need to consider that that's one of these things that we don't need to consider funding, and I back what Commissioner Jones has already said.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Commissioner Lucas.
Thank you. We have a Grand Opera House that in our splost budget we put $5 million. They've already accessed, I think, a couple of million of it for new chairs and custom carpet. I have nothing against culture. I voted to do that, you know. We have an entity that has a building on our property at the Coliseum. That entity has had a contract for 50 years for $1 per year. And they're asking for an extension of 8 years for $1 per year. If we can take $2.5 million and put it down in Luther Williams Ballpark for a team to play, and we love sports. My husband, my sons, all of them were athletes. I love sports. I'm just showing you where we're putting money. How many employees work at Navicent? I'm asking, I guess, the attorney or somebody. How many thousands? employer, yeah. A lot of my constituents work there. $22 million was the figure I heard as far as what they provide in indigent care. The budget proposal is $451,009, and we have been as low as $180,000 in what we were proposing to fund indigent care. $451,000 when compared to $22 million worth of indigent care, they don't even touch. They don't even wave at each other. But we have citizens who utilize that facility for their care. This appropriation, this recommendation simply says that we are expressing appreciation to Navicent for providing indigent care to that level in this community. For many of your families, our families, because everybody's got somebody who's indigent, whether you admit it or not, you got somebody. And so I just want to say that this amount does not touch the actual amount that's provided, and Navicent needs to shape up now as far as providing some more, because they're not doing everything they need to be doing. But they're providing $22 million worth, and I think that's an awful lot in this community. Now, we don't value property. We don't do the evaluations on properties. We have a board of tax assessors that determines what properties are tax exempt and which ones are not. So we don't make that decision, and if they qualify under the provisions of the law as certain functions being tax exempt, then they're doing it legally. It's being done legally. Just like the churches and just like many others of our facilities that are classified as tax exempt. So those who have a problem, I don't care how much Navicent, I'm glad they're a successful function in this community, because when I have to go for a procedure or whatever, that's where y'all hear me? That's where I'm going, y'all. Rabbi's got my bag. That's where I'm going. Because they are the largest employer, because they provide $22 million in indigent care, and because they're in our community, and we are glad. I'm going to wholeheartedly endorse the $451,500 because it's a drop in the bucket. It says thank you, and if you are able to use the local support in getting grants or other kinds of assistance in providing health care for the community, then that's our way of saying thank you, and we're all in on this. So I urge approval of this amendment to the budget.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. Mr. Jones, got you next, sir.
Yes, sir.
And two more waiting.
It's really not about indigent care, but if you want the real stats, here they are from Navicent and both HCA, because I've done a lot of research on it. Navicent spent a little over $15 million in indigent care, according to the person who tracks that. HCA spent a little over $17 million, which is a surprise to me, according to the person who tracks that at HCA. Both hospitals are wonderful. It's not about, they're both great assets. HCA has 16 properties, and they're valued at about $1 million. Take that back. They're valued more than that, but they paid about $1 million in taxes. Navicent, 70 properties, according to the tax assessor's tax commissioner's office, got it in writing. 70 properties valued at $270 million. They have a nonprofit status. I'm sure it's registered legally as it should be. But according to Tyler and Company, who they hired, they had a net profit in 2016 of $800 million. Their top two executives, God bless them, one makes $1.4 million, second one makes $1.3 million. They have 400 days cash on hand, according to the same report by Tyler and Company. I've furnished that to all the commissioners. We have 19. Your government has 19 days cash on hand, we heard this week. So why in the world would we give any amount of money? Indigent care is the cost of doing business for any hospital. And they do well and they make money, and I'm happy for them. But I would be embarrassed to be the CEO to be asking for money from a government that's teetering on the edge of not having any money. Why would we give $451,500 to someone who has so much more than we do? That doesn't make good sense to me. MedSin Foundation, I used to work on the MedSin Foundation years ago. They now have $92 million. That was reported from a reliable source.
Thank
so
you,
it's just not appropriate to give money to folks. I'd rather give it to all these other agencies who need it and don't have that amount of wealth in their organization. It's not there. There's just no comparison.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Mr. Watkins?
Commissioner Jones, you make some good points. You make some strong points. We disagree with a few numbers that you state, but it's irrelevant to the point that I would like to make. 400 is the number that I'm proposing. It is 1/10 of a mil. I think the consequences of us not contributing anything as a community to indigent care would make us one of the few communities in the state, possibly the region, that just don't put any money in their hospital system. Out of our $149 million budget, we would say that no health care outcomes are minimalized. So I understand the desire that, and I think all of us agree that our 400 or 40,000 is nominal to the Navicent Health. But they are a nonprofit agency that applies for a lot of grants, subsidies, and to other agencies or even Medicaid applications. And that matters. Having local input or a local dollar amount matters. So I would ask that even if zero is bad, if we can't come to a conclusion, 50,000 is still putting something there, but zero is bad. It has more consequences than us keeping 400,000. It's probably going to net a few $1 million lost in grants and other things that the hospital needs because they have the local hospitals, the local government is not involved. That's my understanding of this situation. We do need to come up with a number we're comfortable with. I understand your point from a financial standpoint, but until something changes in state law and everything else, the nonprofit status of them not having to pay taxes probably won't change, but that is far outside of our purview to do anything about.
Thank you, Commissioner Watkins. Commissioner Wynn?
Out something that was just alluded to a minute ago. I look at the list of outside agencies and look at how many we could fund with that $450,000. Citizens Advocacy, Meals on Wheels, Middle Georgia Food Bank, and the Economic Opportunity Council could all be taken care of very easily. We could look down the list and look at the Douglas Theater, we can look at the Museum of Arts and Sciences and Tubman Museum, and some of those would be easily funded if we had that $450 million. But that's not what I want to say. I want to say call the question. I beat you to it.
Commissioner Wynn moves to call the question. Second by Mayor Pro Tem Till. Point of order.
Now would be a great time if you weren't comfortable with the 400,000 to make an amendment.
Call the question. The vote on calling the question. All in favor of calling the question, signify by raising your right hand or raising your hand. Calling the question. Calling the question. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed to calling the question, show me your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5. So we failed to call the question, so additional discussion would be in order. Commissioner Jones, I got you next, and then Commissioner Watkins.
A brief comment, Mr. Chairman,
Please.
to my respected colleague,
Please.
Virgil Watkins, and he's handled all of this, including today, extremely fair. I was proud of you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Watkins.
Wasn't it? And health, I need the money. $450,000 is not going to make any difference in what they get or don't get. Plus, we have another hospital who spent more than they did. We're not giving them any money, and we shouldn't do that either. It's the cost of doing business. When the little Macon Hospital was founded by 22 citizens in Macon, Georgia, March 27th, 1895, they got together. It was appropriate then, and it was probably appropriate over the years to make sure this hospital was sustaining itself and providing quality care. It's not appropriate today, especially in this environment we're in now. It's just not appropriate.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Watkins. Good. Those in favor of restoring funding for Navigant, $451,500 with the associated 0.11 mil increase would vote yes. Those opposed would vote no. No amendment, right. Would vote yes. So let me see the hands of the yeses. If you're in favor of reinstating funding to Navigant, let me see your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Let me see the hands of the noes, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It takes 6 votes to pass an amendment to the budget. So that vote fails 4 to 5. Is that right?
Yes,
4 to
sir.
5.
Yes,
That
sir.
vote fails by 2 votes. So we have declined to that. We'll go next to item F, which concerns planning and zoning and reinstatement of funding for planning and zoning. Ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to adopt an amended budget and appropriate sums for the operation of Macon-Bibb County government for fiscal year 2019, to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances, and to provide for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor of reinstate.
This is item F. This is planning and zoning to reinstate $800,000 via corresponding millage rate of 0.196 mils.
I
Planning and zoning.
didn't say that.
He didn't.
That's not what my F reads.
Right.
Right.
We've renumbered.
No, yeah, we renumbered. So this is item F, put P and Z, so this is $800,000 to reinstate funding for P and Z with the associated 0.196 mil increase. Those in favor would vote yes. Those opposed would vote no. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Let me see the hands of those that want to reinstate funding to P and Z. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let me see the hands of the noes. 1, 2. Wynn and Allen are the 2 noes. So by 7 to 2, that is adopted. Item F. Item G is the reinstatement of funding for the Urban Development Authority, Industrial Authority, and Land Bank Authority, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to adopt an amended budget and appropriate sums for the operation of Macon-Bibb County government for fiscal year 2019, to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances, and to provide for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Tillman. Pass? Commissioner Bivens.
Just want to be sure, would you name those agencies again?
Right, the Urban Development Authority for $90,000 with an associated 0.22 mil increase. The Industrial Authority at $460,000 with a 0.112 mil increase, and the Land Bank Authority at $192,000 with a 0.047 mil increase. That answer your question, sir? Okay? Those in favor would vote yes. Those opposed to the reinstatement of funding and those amounts with the associated millage rate increase would vote no. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Let me see the hand vote of those yes votes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me see the hands of the noes. 1, 2. Noes, and Commissioner Shepard is out of the room momentarily, but I got six votes yes and 2 no. That vote is adopted, 6-2 with 1 absent. Item H is next, and that's the Community Enhancement Authority, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to adopt an amended budget and appropriate sums for the operation of the Macon-Bibb County government for fiscal year 2019, to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances and to provide for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Tillman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Many years ago, Little Richard, who is the darling of our community, we know wherever he's at, whether he's in Hollywood, whatever television show he's on, he always boasts and brags that Macon, Georgia is my hometown. No matter where he's at, no matter how famous he's ever gotten, he always boasts and brags, Macon, Georgia is my hometown. And although he lives now up in Nashville, Tennessee, and fell in health, I appreciate the state representative and those guys that's been doing remarkable work over in Pleasant Hill. And we have an opportunity to finally do something for Little Richard after all these years. And, you know, we've got other things. We got the big house going for the Allman Brothers. We got things going for Otis Redding and so forth. And this is an opportunity for us to finally fund that house over there and give those kids and those youth over there somewhere to go. So I implore us to let's fund. So you don't have to worry about coming out your budget.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Commissioner Jones, got you next, sir.
This is the only other agency I have some questions about, not because of the intent and the goal and big Little Richard fan, Otis Redding, the Big O. That's what I grew up on. But I have some questions. My two reluctant factors are, it's a new agency. We can't support the ones we have already in place. So I don't think we should take on something new. And then I have some questions about the logistics or the formatting of how it's set up. So I'll be voting no on that one.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Point of personal privilege for me, remember that the operation of the Little Richard House as a community resource center was an obligation that was undertaken by Macon City Council, and in reliance on that, the Georgia Department of Transportation has proceeded with an $11 million mitigation program in Pleasant Hill, and it would be devastating for us to renege on that obligation to the Georgia Department of Transportation. The Community Enhancement Authority, I think, makes an excellent vehicle because they have been part of that community and all of the mitigation efforts and discussions that went on for years to get to this point, plus the good work that they're doing in the community now. So I think they're an excellent fit for this, and I would urge the commissioners to support this. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Wynn.
Just for clarification, is there a legal obligation that we must do this? You referred to the...
Yes, ma'am. There is a legal obligation that we, with the Georgia Department of Transportation, that we would accept the Little Richard House after they relocated and rehabilitated, that we would operate it as a community resource center for Pleasant Hill. Yes, ma'am. There is a legal obligation that we do that.
It's a good idea. If we didn't do this, do we have to pay them back for the fee, the cost
I don't even want to go there. I mean, I don't even want to go there. It's a legal obligation for us to operate it as a community resource center. Right. Is there further discussion? Those that are in favor of the Community Enhancement Center restoring funding, $96,000 with the associated 0.05% .023 mills would vote yes. Those opposed would vote no. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Let me count the votes in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 6 votes yes. Those opposed, let me see your hands. 1, 2, 3. I got Wynn, Jones, and Allen opposed. So that is adopted 6-3. Item I is for DFACS funding, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to adopt an amended budget and appropriate sums for the operation of the Macon-Bibb County government for fiscal year 2019, to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances, and to provide for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Jones.
To amend that to $650,000 based on the fact that staff has verified that they have $140,000 left at the end of their fiscal year, which coincides with ours. So 140 plus 650 would be 790. So not asking them to give it back, but like to amend it to 650,000.
Is there a second to amend the fund reinstatement for funding from to DFACS from 800 to 650? Is there a second? Got a second by Commissioner Wynn. Is there further discussion on the amendment to change the amount of funding to DFACS? Commissioner Watkins, got you here, sir.
I just wanted to speak a little bit as to how they were able to acquire a fund balance. And I know that the city's fund balance is low, but I don't know if it's good practice to penalize agencies for being good stewards. I think we end up incentivizing a different attitude. There's an old government mantra: if you don't spend it, you lose it. By us, and my understanding of the way this 140,000 was derived was there were vacancies throughout the last couple of years that have allowed them to acquire a fund balance. And if they would have known that we would have had this conversation, a lot of agencies and a lot of departments over the years I've seen, this is the opportunity to buy $140,000 worth of capital. Now, and also, I just don't think that's a good practice. I understand the mindset, but I think it gets us into a trouble with folks. I mean, we'll be encouraging you to spend it before we know about it, when right now they've actually been good stewards. They have a fund balance that they've built through having vacancies for too long. And for us to also finalize these cuts mean that we're comfortable with whatever those offices are remaining vacant. So that's just my piece on it. I yield.
Commissioner Wynn, got you next.
Balances are a savings account in essence, as the city has, and they should be if they should be needed, they should be used for an emergency, and I consider this kind of close to an emergency. Just like our city balance fund is down to $4 million, you know, we're very close to having to dip into that again, and we're already too low with that. So savings accounts sometimes we have to dip into to use when an emergency comes around.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Commissioner Jones, got you next, sir.
With all due respect to Commissioner Watkins, and he makes a valid point, but the other side of that coin is we don't want to encourage people just to spend it either. So if in fact they've been good stewards, that's great, and that's appreciated. And we don't know really where the savings came from. Possibly some of it did come from positions they didn't fill. But I think if the money's there, we need to take that into account, because this money belongs to we the people. It doesn't belong to us.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Lucas, got you next.
Something that I said earlier. In the meeting we had with the head of the DFACS, the local DFACS, it was our understanding that there's a long waiting list of children for foster care. And they can't just place children anywhere. There has to be a process that they go through, and the services that go with it's not just taking children and putting them into any place. There is a process It was my understanding from the discussion in that meeting that with the waiting list, that the local funds would be used for providing those services to foster children. And I repeat that I believe 200, I believe I'm correct, that there were 200 waiting, or at least 200 cases. So I think that's enough evidence for me that we need to restore the funding there. And I do believe, and I know the state representative probably could fill us in a little bit more on the need for local support, as in the case of Navicent, when you are applying for different pots of money, you need to show that local support in order to get hundreds of thousands and even millions of other dollars in support. So I think we're doing a lot of damage, maybe unintended, because nobody intentionally does the kind of damage that we've done to some things tonight, but I hope that the damage is not irreparable.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. No other lights on. So this is on the. Oh, I'm sorry. County Attorney wanted to mention something.
Rules require amendments to be in writing, so I'd like to ask that the commission, if y'all pass this, will agree to allow the clerk to strike through the 800 and change it to 650, or do you want us to give us a minute to print it out? So, and we would have to adjust the millage rate. I'm not sure what that would be, but you would do it based upon whatever 650,000 is.
Right.
Does everyone understand that?
Let's see if
But there's a problem, I'm bringing that up because that is a rule we.
Okay. Let's see if we've got that problem. This is the amendment now to change the amount of funding for DFACS from 800 to 650. Those that want to vote to reduce the funding to 650 would vote yes. Those that want to keep it at 800 would vote no. So let me see the hands of the ones that want to reduce it to 650. Those that are in favor of reduction, let me see your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be interesting. Those that are opposed to the reduction to 650, let me see your hands. If you're opposed to the reduction to 650, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 that are opposed to the reduction. Therefore, the reduction fails. So you're back to the original 800 motion. So we're back to the main motion at 800. I feel like an auctioneer. Back to the main motion at $800,000. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of restoring funding to DFACS in the amount of $800,000 with the .196 millage rate increase associated with it would vote aye. Those opposed would vote no. All in favor of the reinstatement of funding to DFACS, let me see your hands. Vote yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 6 yeses. Let me see the hands of the noes. 1, 2, 3. Wynn, Jones, and Allen vote no. 6 to 3. That is adopted. A reinstatement of funding to DFACS in the amount of $800,000. Next is item J. A variety of organizations, and I'll ask the clerk to read this by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to adopt an amended budget and appropriate sums for the operation of the Macon-Bibb County government for fiscal year 2019, to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances, and to provide for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Bivens? Yeah, sure.
Want to get a list of what those are?
This is citizens advocacy that would be funding to them in the amount of $4,500 with a .001 mill rate increase. Meals on Wheels at $35,000 with a .009 millage increase. Food Bank at $15,400 with a .004 mill rate increase.
That's on K.
Is there further discussion or inquiry? Commissioner Wynn?
Yes, I feel compelled to speak on this one because I've used Meals on Wheels as so many times as my example of where we can find other funding. And Lord, even if they get funded here, I'm going to work with them to try to find a sponsor to get them funded so they won't have to come back to us again. I think they're real important for this community. If we've got a lot of people that need them, we need to fund them. But I just needed to say this because you know I've always used that example, and if you've been here for the public meetings, you've heard me use poor Meals on Wheels as my example. But we can find a sponsor for them, and I want to keep looking for other sponsors for other things, but I'll work on that for them.
Is there further discussion? Commissioner Lucas?
Thank you, and that is wonderful, Commissioner, to do that because every holiday and other days when Meals on Wheels does not operate, churches and other groups fill in. I think there's some ministers out there who can attest to the fact that they do volunteer and provide those meals for those days when Meals on Wheels does not operate. And there is a 200-person waiting list that the director stated that she would use the funding to decrease that waiting list. So that's great.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. Commissioner Wynn, got your light on again?
Yeah, again, just
Okay.
one more little follow-up. We've got some people in the audience want to write a check for $35,000. We'd be glad to take it tonight, too.
Good. Thank you very much, Commissioner Wynn. Those in favor of restoring funding to Citizen Advocacy, Meals on Wheels, and Food Bank with the associated 0.14 millage rate increase would vote yes. Those opposed would vote no. All in favor of restoring funding to these three agencies would vote yes. Let me see the hands of the yeses, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 yeses. Let me see the hands of the noes. Wynn and Allen are the two noes. That is adopted, the restoration of funding to those three agencies. Now we move on to item K, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to adopt an amended budget and appropriate sums for the operation of the Macon-Bibb County government for fiscal year 2019, to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances, and to provide for other lawful purposes. These are all these. Have you got these?
Yeah, if you're gonna read them out.
Yeah, read out,
those out?
please read out
Okay.
the
Okay, the
organizations and the amount,
The agencies are as follows: Douglas Theater,
and the millage, please.
in the amount of $100,000 with an increase in millage of 0.024. Museum of Arts and Sciences in the amount of $230,000 with a millage increase of 0.056 mils. Tubman Museum in the amount of $230,000 with a millage increase of 0.056. Macon Arts Alliance in the amount of $40,000 with a millage increase of 0.01 mils. Sports Hall of Fame in the amount of $100,000 with a millage rate of 0.024 mils increase. Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful Commission in the amount of $110,000 with an increased millage rate of 0.027.
All in favor of restoring funding to those organizations and those amounts with the respective millage rate increases would vote yes. Those opposed would vote no. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Jones, got your light on first.
Love all of those agencies. They're all terrific. They great amenities for this community, but we got to tighten our belt a little bit. So, Douglas Theater, I would amend to 90. Museum of Arts and Sciences, 180,000. Tubman Museum, 180,000. Macon Arts Alliance, 30,000. Sports Hall of Fame, 90,000. And Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful, 100,000.
Is there a second? A second by Commissioner Wynn. Is there further discussion on Commissioner Jones' amendment to reduce the amount of funding to these organizations? Is there further discussion? If not, Commissioner Wynn, you got something you wanted to say about the amendment?
I agree with Commissioner Jones. I think these agencies are very valuable to our community. And if I heard the director of the Tubman earlier tonight, some hours ago, say that he was looking for another way of funding, man, that would take care of the problems for the rest of them. You know, we'd have more funds for the rest of them. So I hope that does come about soon.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Is there further discussion on the amendment that would reduce the funding to the various agencies in the amounts stated? No further discussion. I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor of the amendment, which would reduce the amount of funding to these agencies, would vote yes. Those opposed would vote no. No further discussion. I assume you're ready to vote. Let me see the hands of those that are in favor of the amendment to reduce the funding. Let me see your hands, please. 1, 2, 3. You got 3. Let me see the hands that are opposed to that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 to 6. The amendment fails. That brings us back to the main motion of the funding in the amounts originally stated. Douglas Theater, $100,000. Museum of Arts and Sciences, $230. Tubman, $230. Arts Alliance at 40. Sports Hall of Fame at 110. Is that right? 110 for Sports Hall of Fame.
Yes, sir.
110, and Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful at.
No, Sports Hall of Fame is 100.
Sports Hall of Fame is 100.
Yes,
Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful.
Is 110.
Is 110.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Point of order. Get that number again, Mr. Mayor.
Which one?
You said 2 to 6.
$230,000.
No, the vote was 2 to 6.
Excuse me?
What did you say the number was on the vote?
3 to 6.
You said 2 to 6 or 3 to 6?
3 to 6.
On the amendment to reduce the amount of funding?
No, what did you say? I thought I heard you say 2 to 6. I was looking for an extra number.
3 to 6.
3 to 6. Okay. There were three that voted to reduce the funding, 6 that voted not to. So we're back to the main motion. Further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor would vote yes, and those opposed would vote no. Those in favor would signify by raising your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got 6 yes. Let me see the hands of the noes, please. 1, 2, 3. Again, Wynn, Jones, and Allen. 6 to 3. That is adopted. That is item K now, and we move on then to item L. And for anybody that's interested, that's the last budget amendment item. So if you were here for the budget discussions, that's the last one that will come before us. We'll move on to item L, which is an ordinance to appropriate money from the fund balance to pay a past due payment to the Macon Transit Authority. There is an amendment that I have suggested to you before about actually ratifying the actions of the administration. We've already paid it, and so I'm asking for ratification of this amount. Mr. Attorney, anything else we need to say about that? Do we need to amend it?
Well, we have the committee amendment here in writing. Commissioner,
okay, there's the committee amendment. You want to read the committee amendment, please, by caption?
Yes, sir. An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission ratifying the payment of $255,578 from FY 2017 fund balance to the Macon Transit Authority.
The committee of the whole recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Schlesinger.
No, sir, I yield.
Okay. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the ordinance is adopted. Item K now is an ordinance to amend the financial policies of Macon-Bibb County Consolidated Government. I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to amend the financial policies for the Macon-Bibb County Consolidated Government to provide for the adoption of the recommendations of Macon-Bibb County's auditing firm, to place responsibility for the administrative functions of budget preparation and control under the Finance Director, and to provide that requests for amendments to the budget shall be submitted by the Finance Director to the Commission on no less than a monthly basis to be approved or denied, and to provide for other lawful purposes.
There is a committee amendment that changed the effective date to July the 16th in the committee of the whole. The committee of the whole recommends approval as amended. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Jones.
To give some background to this, this takes us back to where we started, back to what Carl Vinson Institute of Government recommended to us in concert with the Consolidation Task Force. Takes us back to that. It was recommended by Malden and Jenkins, Miller Edwards, who does our annual audit. So it just makes good sense. It should correct some miscues, whatever you want to call them, from the past where we weren't paying close enough attention. Monthly reviews, and it will be, finance director will be accountable to the mayor and all the commissioners. So there's the background. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance as amended, signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the ordinance is adopted. Next is item M, which is an appointment to the Macon Housing Authority, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission reappointing Pearlie Tolliver to the Macon Housing Authority Board of Commissioners and for other lawful purposes.
Economic and Community Development Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Item N is the 14th amendment to the SPLOST spending timeline, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to approve the 14th Amendment to the 2018 SPLOST project timeline and budget as presented by the SPLOST, excuse me, as presented by the SPLOST project manager and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Bibbins. I'm sorry. Commissioner Bibbins. Old habits hard to break. Mayor Pro Tem.
All right.
I'm sorry. Honorary.
All right, okay. What was that change adjustment of?
It actually just moved the timeline around for funding of the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ordinances that were all approved, and they are $450,000 for cultural and public bucket of the SPLOST money, and this is to be spent at the auditorium for repairs. I don't remember exactly what, but repairs at the auditorium was one. The second one was $1,442,000 that we'll get to momentarily for the Parks and Recreation in Central City Park for improvements, I think, to the
Girls softball team.
Girls softball fields. And then there was $5,600,000 for debt retirement, and $2,307,000 for SPLOST revenue, Parks and Recreation in Freedom Park, the phase 2 of Freedom Park, and then $1,009,000 to the Water Authority for stormwater projects that they've done and that we need to pay for. All of those were approved by the Operations and Finance Committee, so the timeline just moved the money around to
These related to Ian?
Sir?
All these related to Ian?
Yes, sir. The Operations and Finance Committee heard and recommended them all. We'll talk about them individually. The timeline is just the adjustments to the timeline to specify when the funding is available. Is there further discussion on this, which is the timeline, the modification of the timeline? This is the 14th Amendment to the timeline. Is there further discussion about that? Commissioner Jones?
Not on this one, sir, but I wanted to add something to the agenda, which it's regarding MTA at the appropriate time before you get done, and then also wanted a budget proposal overall. So,
wow. I'm gonna defer that to the attorney to say why we continue, whether or not we can add items at the end of the agenda, or whether we should have done that at the very first. So let me defer that and give him a half a second. Yeah,
Well,
give him a half a second.
Well, I think Commissioner did make people aware, when they were here, that he wanted to make an amendment, and you said we got to the appropriate point, so I think we're okay.
To add, no, not to add items. I think he wanted to
No, he
address
said he
item
wanted
L.
to add. He said he wanted to add the $214,000 payment.
Isn't that the one we've already done when we agreed to pay them, ratify? Oh boy. Okay, we got a motion and second to add an item to the agenda, but just so we won't get completely confused in what we're doing, let me get the vote on this done, and then I'll go to that. So the vote that the item under discussion is the timeline amendments, just the amendments to the timeline. The operations and finance, I'm sorry, the Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion?
Look what the rule is.
Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. Now let's go to the motion to add an item to the agenda, which would be an item regarding funding to the Macon Transit Authority. This is an item by Commissioner Jones, and I'll let you speak to that about
Yes,
whether or
sir.
not to add it.
And everybody has a copy of it, and it's referenced in Attorney Brad Wilson's letter. Has to do from the FY 2017 audit. It was determined that the deficit for that year was $215,108. I got a line through that. It's hard to read. What this would do was provide funding so that the MTA can continue to run through at least mid-August. So it's money we already owe. And we all got a letter on it dated June 29, 2018 from Attorney Brad Wilson. So I want to add that to the agenda. I make a motion we do so.
Point of privilege, you know, I wish we would hold that until the committee meetings next week so we could discuss it a little bit fuller. Because remember the discussions we were supposed to have about whether or not to require a 45-day or a 30-day funding reserve. That may still be an option for this, but it may not. I would love to have a little bit of time and take it up next week and let it run through the committee process. If that, would you consider doing that for us, or do you want to push it tonight?
Well, it's from the 2017 audit. It's not.
That's one of the ones that I understand is still perhaps subject to modification by amendment, an agreement with the transit authority. It's because it's whether or not to maintain 45 days reserve or 30 days reserve. And I don't think they really to be.
They're good through the end of July, so I'll go along with that.
Thank you. That would be great. We'll withdraw that and put it on the agenda for operations and finance for their Tuesday meeting next Tuesday, which would be the 11th. No, I'm sorry, the 10th. The 10th. Good. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Let's move on then to item LMNO. Item O is the first ordinance for the money that we just shifted around on the timeline, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission approving and authorizing the appropriation of $450,000 from the 2017 SPLOST bond proceeds and our 2018 SPLOST revenues, culture, and public auditorium, and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion?
All right, I can read the rule. It can be done. It takes 5 votes.
I was not there, but it's roof repairs at the auditorium. Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion on that?
You didn't.
Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance would signify by saying aye.
I think you may have voted on one.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. We've got several sidebar conversations going on here. Can I figure out what's?
Yeah, neither was you. Rabbi just came and told me that we voted on the budget at 3.9 degree, 3.9. I don't remember that. I ain't voted on the budget.
You voted on about 7 amendments.
No, I voted on a few amendments. I didn't vote on the entire coming up thing to that.
No, we did. We voted on them individually.
Right.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure. Would you take your seat and let me call on somebody and find out what procedural point of order, Commissioner Schlesinger? What's the point of order you want to raise?
I'd like to move to reconsider the vote that we took on the budget itself as finalized.
I'm not sure that.
Well, then you're going to have. It would have to be done. I would like to read the rule for a motion to reconsider. Okay. The rules say to reconsider. This is in our code of ordinances. The motion to reconsider allows the commission to debate whether or not to overturn a decision made at the meeting that is in progress. It allows the commission to consider new information that may affect the decision that has already been made. Any commissioner can make a motion to reconsider, and any commissioner may second the motion. The motion is debatable, but it cannot be amended. The affirmative vote of at least 5 members of the commission is required for the motion to pass. If a motion to reconsider is passed, the original decision will be voided, and the commission will return to debate and revote the original motion.
So the question I would have then is, what vote do you want to reconsider?
I would like to reconsider the budget as amended.
Okay, there was each one of those was adopting an ordinance adopting an amendment to the budget. So you will have to do that for each one, A through L. Excuse me, A through K.
And I feel a little out of sorts in the announcement that was made was we weren't going to have any more votes on the budget. And a lot of people left here with that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stop you.
My motion stands.
Right. Excuse me? Hold on. Commissioner Schlesinger, help me state your motion. You want to reconsider our vote on items A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K?
That's what it takes.
We've got a motion by Schlesinger to reconsider these. Is there a second? A second by Commissioner Jones. So wait, let's just see. We've got a motion and a second. So further discussion would be necessary. I've got Commissioner Watkins' light on first. Commissioner Watkins, you're recognized to speak on the motion to reconsider.
As a point of order, I want to make sure this is in order and in bounds. The attorney alluded to that this is done for the purposes of new information. So I feel
I'll reconsider. I'll reread the rule again.
Please do.
Supplementary main. I'll read the whole thing. Supplementary main motions. 3 motions allow the commission to act on a main motion that has either been passed or tabled by the commission. These motions are considered to be the main motions, but differ from usual motions in the way specified. The first one is a motion to reconsider. The motion to reconsider allows the commission to debate whether or not to overturn a decision made at the meeting that is in progress. It allows the commission to consider new information that may affect the decision that has already been made. Any commissioner can make a motion to reconsider, and any commissioner may second the motion. The motion is debatable, but it cannot be amended. The affirmative vote of at least 5 members of the commission is required for the motion to pass. If a motion to reconsider is passed, the original decision will be voided, and the commission will return to debate and revote the original motion.
Read that last line
If
again.
a motion to reconsider is passed, the original decision will be voided, and the commission will return to debate and revote the original motion.
sponsor's justification? It seems like a reason is important here.
Well, hold on. We do this one at a time, not back and forth and asking questions. So hold that thought. Commissioner Schlesinger, let me go back to you, please, sir, and see if you can shed a little bit of light on that topic that Commissioner Watkins just raised.
I mean, it's plain and simple. I would like for this commission to reconsider. If we have to, I'd like to do it, all together. But if we have to go, A through K, then let's go A through K.
Well, so let me keep going. I got three more waiting. Commissioner Wynn.
I'd like to hear what Commissioner Schlesinger has for us. I think that was what Commissioner Watkins was asking about, because he has a proposal. I think we should let him give it. Hear him out.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Commissioner Allen.
I just wondering where we're at, how we got here, because I mean, saying that we voted for the entire budget, and I didn't. That's the reason I was over there talking. I apologize for that.
No. I mean, we got here by taking several votes, moving on to other business, and then having a commission during the same meeting to make a motion to reconsider. Commissioner Lucas?
Yeah, I had a parliamentary inquiry. And what I was going to ask, I knew that you had to move to reconsider at the meeting that you're dealing with that particular issue. And it used to be that it was has to be a person who voted for it to call for the reconsideration. But I understand that our order it's different. Anybody can move to reconsider, but it must be done at the meeting where that business is being taken care of. My question is, since the budget was approved at a previous meeting, that interim budget is not on this agenda. And so we could not reconsider. That motion to reconsider would have to have been made at the other meeting. Isn't that correct?
No, ma'am.
I think what we have is a budget that has been amended.
Budget, these are amendments. The budget itself is not on this agenda. It was approved previously. And so it is not on this agenda. So I think that Rabbi is correct. He'd have to go back and make a motion to reconsider each one of these items. I guess I need to phrase that as a question. Am I correct in that since the budget was on a previous agenda and that was approved? That was the one that was approved, 6-3? And so tonight we have proposed amendments. That budget is no longer on here.
That's true.
So he would have to move to reconsider each individual one of these amendments.
Well, and to be perfectly, my analysis of this is, if you vote to reconsider, all of the previous votes, A through K, are void.
Correct.
Nullified. And then you'd have to go back and re-vote on each one. Right, you'd have to go back and re-vote on each one. And in light of the hour and what we told people that were here who left, I think I don't get to vote. I'm just the chairman of this organization here. So, like I say, if y'all do this, I think there's going to be a lot of repercussions. What we got is a further discussion on the motion for reconsideration. Commissioner Watkins.
I feel that it is important that prior to the vote for reconsideration, there's an explanation as to why we're about to go down this path. And I haven't heard one yet. I have no idea where we're going with this. I don't know. I just don't know.
Okay, that's fine. You haven't heard a satisfactory explanation. Well, that's Commissioner Schlesinger's motion, unless it's deemed out of order, has been seconded, and there's a motion and second. So let's call the question and see if it what? Then that ought to be maybe that ought to be a reason to vote against it. Right? Just vote it down. Vote his motion down. It takes 5 votes to reconsider. Takes 5 votes to reconsider, right? Is there further discussion before we take this vote?
I want to clarify, there's a motion on the floor to reconsider items A through L.
A through L? No, A through K.
A through K, I'm sorry.
A through K. Right. Those that are in favor of reconsidering those items
it was
would
seconded
vote.
by Ms. Wynn.
Second was by Ms. Wynn. Those that are in favor of reconsidering those items would vote yes. Those that are not in favor of reconsidering those votes would vote no. It takes 5 yes votes. All those in favor of reconsideration, raise your hand. 1. Well, he didn't even get his second. All those opposed. All those opposed to reconsideration. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 1 to 8. Thank you very much, Commissioner Schlesinger. Your motion is defeated. Does that bring us back to item K on the agenda for an ordinance for additional funding parks and recreation at Central City Park? And I'll ask the clerk to read item P. Item P, please. Huh?
No. Sorry. An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission approving and authorizing the appropriation of $1,442,130 from the 2017 SPLOST bond proceeds and our 2018 SPLOST revenue, parks and recreation, Central City Park, and for other lawful purposes.
County Attorney's doing a better job. He says I've misnumbered, and this is actually item Q and not P. But hey, does anybody have a question about which ordinance we're voting on? Ordinance approving and authorizing the appropriation of $1,442,130 from SPLOST funds for parks and recreations in Central City Park. Anybody have a question about it? Anybody got further discussion on that? If not, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that item is approved. The ordinance is approved. So does that bring us to R?
I'm just reading the next one.
Okay, just read the next one. An ordinance about some additional funding for previous debt retirement.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission approving and authorizing the appropriation of $5,600,000 from the 2017 SPLOST bond proceeds and our 2018 SPLOST revenue debt retirement and for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the ordinance is adopted. Item S is another ordinance with SPLOST projects. This one for Parks and Recreation and Freedom Park, Phase 2 Freedom Park, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission approving and authorizing the appropriation of $2,307,408 from the 2017 SPLOST bond proceeds and our 2018 SPLOST revenues, parks and recreation, Freedom Park, and for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. Next is item T, which is an ordinance for SPLOST dollars for stormwater projects, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission approving and authorizing the appropriation of $1,922,840 from the 2017 SPLOST bond proceeds and our 2018 SPLOST revenue stormwater management to various Macon Water Authority and for other lawful purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. Next is item U, which is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement for a new communications tower, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to authorize the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement with Williams Communication, Inc. in the amount of $76,407.03 for the purchase of a fire station tower for use by the Macon-Bibb County Fire Department to be paid by 2018 SPOS proceeds and for other lawful purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Next is item V, which is an intergovernmental agreement with the Board of Health for their SPLOST funding, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing Macon-Bibb County to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Macon-Bibb County Board of Health related to funding of the Health Department SPLOST project and for other purposes.
The Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. That brings us to item W, which is a resolution authorizing another intergovernmental agreement with River Edge for their SPLOST funding, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
A resolution of the Macon-Bibb County Commission authorizing Macon-Bibb County to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with River Edge Behavioral Health relating to funding of a mental health SPLOST project and for other purposes.
Operations and Finance Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Item X, by my count, is an ordinance relating to changing the fee for registering a vacant or foreclosed property, and I'll ask the clerk to read that by caption.
An ordinance of the Macon-Bibb County Commission to amend Section 6-76 of the inaugural Code of Ordinances of Macon-Bibb County relating to the registration of vacant and foreclosed realty by increasing the registration fee to $100 to provide an effective date thereof and to provide for other lawful purposes.
The Facilities and Engineering Committee recommends approval. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the ordinance signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. That brings us to the end of old business. The new business that we've got first is an ordinance to transfer $224,000 from state grants GDOT to property, DOT Jeffersonville Road, to pay for further potential right-of-way cost related to Jeffersonville Road widening, budget supplement number 12. I'm going to refer that to the Operations and Finance Committee for further study and evaluation. The second item of new business is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement with Conditioned Air, Inc. in the amount of $65,905 for the purchase and installation of a HVAC unit at the E911 Center to be paid for by E911 budgeted funds. I'm going to refer that to the Operations and Finance Committee for further study and evaluation. Item C under new business is a resolution to authorize acceptance of 3 unregistered paved roads in Kinsdale Subdivision Phase 1 for public use as part of the county road system. I'm going to refer that to the Facilities and Engineering Committee for further evaluation and study. That ends the reading of the new business that has thus far come down from the Attorney's Office. I anticipate, however, additional items of new business being prepared and sent down by legal, and they will be included on the agenda that we publish on Friday of each week for the committee meetings that will come up the following Tuesday. So these items and others will come up at the committee meetings on Tuesday, July the 10th, beginning at 9 o'clock in the morning. So check the agenda that comes out on Friday for all of the business items that will be there. That brings us to the final item on our agenda prior to adjournment, and that's public comments on non-agenda items. And waiting patiently throughout this entire proceeding is Mr. Donald Richardson, who wants to share some grassroots reflections with us. Mr. Richardson, thank you for your patience and your time, sir. We appreciate you being here. We look forward with eager anticipation to your grassroots reflections. Sir, you are recognized to speak, but be brief. It's late. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Let me turn
To
you on.
denote cost, the term used in English law to denote the expenses incurred, one, in employing a lawyer in his professional capacity for purposes other than litigation, and two, in instituting and carrying on litigation, whether with or without the aid of a lawyer. Solicitor and client. The retainer of a solicitor implies a contract to pay him his proper charges and disbursements with respect to the work done by him as a solicitor. In the cases of conveyancing, his remuneration is now, for the most part, regulated by scales ad valorem on the value of the property dealt with in Solicitor's Remuneration Order of 1882, and clients are free to make written agreements for the conduct of any class of non-litigious business, fixing the cost by percentage on the value of the amount involved. So far as litigious business is concerned, the arrangement known as no cure, no pay is objected to by the courts and professionals, leading to speculative actions and stipulations as to the share of the proceeds of a successful action are champerteous and illegal. An English solicitor's bill draw in the old form and the voluminous itemized narrative of every act done by him in the case, cause, or matter with a charge, set against each entry and often against each letter written. Before the solicitor can recover from his client the amount of his charges, he must deliver a signed bill of costs and wait a month before suing. The High Court has a threefold jurisdiction to deal with solicitors' costs. One, by virtue of his jurisdiction over them, and as its officer. Two, statutory under the Solicitors Act of 1843 and other legislation. Three, ordinary to ascertain the reasonableness of charges made the subject of a claim. The client can, as a matter of course, get an order for taxation within a month of the delivery of the solicitor's bill, and either a client or solicitor can get such an order as, of course, within 12 months of delivery. After the expiry of that time, the court may order taxation if the special circumstances call for it, and even so late as 12 months after the actual payment. Costs as between solicitor and client are taxed in the same office as litigious costs, and objection to the decisions of the taxing officer, if properly made, can be taken for review to a judge of the higher court and the Court of Appeals.
Mr. Richardson, thank you so much for your patience and for your comments. We appreciate you coming on to urge us to do always higher and better things. We appreciate you being here, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Got one light on. Commissioner Wynn, do you have a point of personal privilege you want to share with us?
Not personal privilege. I just meant to ask this earlier. With the amended budget that we passed, that was passed, let me put it that way, do you know what the total millage rate increase would be? Do we have that?
No, excuse me? No, if you've got it, because I need to add the museums to mine.
Roughly, and we made some changes in the approximation, but in between 3.9 and 4.2. Not 4.2. Total
Thank you.
The total impact of today's decisions were in between, that's 3.9 and 4.1.
I come up with 4.141. That's what I come up with, and we'll verify that, 4.141.
I wanted to be able to tell people if they ask me tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. No further lights. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Without objection, we're adjourned. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.